Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's been another long week, month, year, in the hands of everybody. But we're back with another episode of Gloves Off. We apologize that the schedule's a little all over the place, but it's the times are changing, and it is kind of hard to always get everyone wrangled down. So I'm Koopa, as always. One of your many co-hosts here, and joining me, as always, we got familiar faces all around, but uh, in fact, if you look at Chris's screen, there's now eight of us,
I told you
seven
you
of
can't
us.
see that part. The
Oh,
stream,
that's
the
right. They
stream
can't see
actually,
that.
it just looks like my face is there instead. I just put my
Yeah,
camera there because
there we go. Anyway,
I'm
so
really smart and know how to use OBS. But yeah, hi.
Nice, dude.
I'm
yeah,
here
there's
today.
Chris. Chris was his long, beautiful, flowing hair. How you doing, buddy?
Tired. I'm just tired.
Mood.
Exhausting week.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I hear that.
General
Going
consensus.
going around the horn. The man with the plan and a dog and a cat. It's Mr. Hazmat Rules. How are you, sir?
Dude, I'm doing all right. Everything considered. Echoing what Chris said here, it's been a long week. It's been a lot going on, obviously, in the world and elsewhere. But doing okay, all things considered. Glad to have the podcast back in rotation here, so that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's been a long week, and we're gonna touch on that. And we needed to bring in some troops, and some people who are can speak about what's happening at a level that not all that we can't
Yeah.
relate to. So I went through some people that I know, and I couldn't think of anybody better than our good friend returning to the podcast, commentator extraordinaire, hailing from the land of, you're from Maryland in the MDVA, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. J Dog 926, brother man, how you doing?
I'm surviving, man. Like everyone else saying, long, 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 long week, but we out here. We are still out here.
Yeah, and Ajax, another regular. He might be popping in later. He might not. I don't know. If he does, cool. If he doesn't, the show must go on. And like we said, it's been 2020 in itself has been an exhausting year, on all fronts. And we of course like to try to keep things light, in spite of all of that. We've continued to pump out content. We've continued to kind of bring you guys a sense of normalcy, through the coronavirus pandemic, through everything that's been happening this year. But just as the world is constantly changing, we kind of have to change along with that. And everything that's been happening this past week was just too important to ignore. And I just want to start by saying that, on the big scale, I'm really happy that all of our, all of our colleagues, all of our friends, people that have these huge platforms in esports are using that reach to talk about, the important things. And we're going to be talking about that too, with, the issues with, police brutality and, systemic racism and all these problems that have been persistent, in the United States for years now. So I just want to say, between all of us here, we've all done our part. Whether it be signal boosting, sharing experiences, and so on and so forth. So I just want to say, I applaud you guys, for aiding in that as well. So
Yeah, it's important, man. You got to do it.
It is important.
yeah, I it's so important because of course the big constant that I've seen, not only just from us but from big corporations too. A lot of these everybody has had something to say about this, and of course it's there have been some really shitty people that kind of understand that the world does not just revolve around video games. You know, as much as it's as you would like to believe that, it's not the case. So it's just these things need to be talked about, like you said, and we're no different than that. A lot of other content creators have really been have shared all their thoughts, all great thoughts, and we're no different. So
Well, the
you
thing
know,
is I think like everyone has like an audience of sorts, and despite the size of the audience, there is sort of like it's like the ultimate vibe check. It's like, okay, check in now with your content creators. Like, what are the opinions you're getting from them? What are the things you're actually
Mhm.
gaining from, feeding your attention into content? What do you get back from it? And I think this is one of those things, because you're going to get statements from pretty much everyone because this is too big to ignore and for like amazing reasons, but
And
the
I
sentiment
think the
is going
thing
to vary.
too. Oh, sorry. Is that if you don't say anything, people assume the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
That's where it is. So you gotta say something.
well, the reality is this, right? I mean, I think you're at a point where you either just want to see the world become a better place, or you're at a point where you're just like, okay, it's total doom. Let me say every possible shitty thing I could say because whatever. And if you're on the end where you're consuming content from someone who's kind of saying some bad things or things that don't really align with like, wow, do I really want to be associated with this? Then, now's a good time to kind of check out from that. But you can't really know that unless you get full kind of disclosure, honesty from your, whether it be content creators, corporations, businesses, whatever, because you're seeing things like, Nintendo's spoken out, which is obviously a big one for our community.
I think Lego was the first big one where I was like, that was really good. Like, that was really impressive. That was insane. They killed. They crushed it.
$4 million they gave towards basically recovery and the variety of things that need funding at the moment because there's a lot. And then you have corporations like Blizzard that'll release a statement, and that is disgusting for a lot of reasons. Like Blizzard has done so many things to basically just ignore like any kind of racism or anything that happens. And there was a whole big debacle with the Hong Kong, like was it Hearthstone, where the dude basically just said freedom. It's just so it really helps put things in perspective now that everyone's kind of has the pressure on them to say something.
I missed Blizzard's actually. I didn't see that. I was just looking. I was just pulling it up right now.
Real quick, yeah.
Well, honestly, you didn't really miss much because they didn't really say anything significant.
Yeah, like just going through like off the top of my head, a bunch of the companies I know that have said things, have done things. Ben and Jerry's, huge one,
crushed it. Yep.
Ben and Jerry's has always been like incredibly progressive. So like that's I will continue to buy that overpriced ice cream for the rest of my life.
Facts. I bought some just the other day. They're wicked.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy some tomorrow probably.
Look, man, I didn't need a reason already, but now that I have an extra reason, dude. Yeah. Wait, what's your flavor? What's your favorite flavor? Not to sidetrack from the important stuff.
Fish food.
Fish food is so good. Great answer. J-Dog?
The milk and cookies one probably.
Christopher?
Dude, I'm a fish food as well.
It's my second favorite.
In it.
Dude, the Tonight Dough. Just Google what's in that shit.
That's a good one.
Strawberry shortcake's very good too. Whatever.
Also very good.
That's also very good.
Niantic's another huge one. Pokemon Company, is another huge one as well. And the list goes on. And I'm sure everybody's been signal boosting it. To Kingdom Come as they should be doing. But something that's just been great is that a lot of the top players in our community have been super progressive about it as well. Nairo, I think, donated close a crap ton of money.
Nairo, Sam Sora, Mars did a stream too. I think went a little under the radar, but obviously I saw it because I love the guy.
Yeah, but any sort of money raised for this is important, man. And if you guys are looking where to put your money, we're gonna just all of us on Twitter have been very vocal about this. So I'm retweeting all sorts of links. I've donated about 300 of my own dollars to various charities just because I feel like it sucks. I'm so happy that all this is happening, but I wish there wasn't a global pandemic happening in the process of it too, which is I wish I could go out there and with my friends and be with the people who are hurting over this because my parents are a little bit of an older generation. My parents were hippies. My parents always told me, if you believe so strongly in something, get out there and make a difference. But unfortunately there's just health complications, and if you're someone that's in that same boat, obviously just follow suit, donate, signal boost, do whatever you can. But I wanted to ask obviously my experience, Haz's experience, and Chris's experiences are all we can never truly relate to what happens to African Americans who are killed by police officers on a yearly and daily basis. So J-Dog, I was just wondering, I reached out to you specifically because you're you've really been like hitting it on the head, like nailing it with every tweet, So I just wanted
Oh
to
my God.
kind of pick your brain and give you a platform to kind of just share your experiences and then share just like how you've processed everything that's been going on.
All right. And that's a really big question because
Yeah.
a lot of what's been going on is honestly just the culmination of hundreds of years of, am I allowed to curse on this?
Go for
Go
it.
right ahead.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Hundreds of years of fucked up shit.
Yep.
The most fucked up shit that you can imagine. So the thing is that, I'm trying to figure out the best way to put it because there's so many different places where I can start with this. But first, I would like to say that the Smash community, in terms of their response to everything that's happening, has actually surprised me in a positive way. In a positive way,
That's
because
awesome.
normally the Smash community, when it comes to these issues, are saying things like, "Oh, I like followed you for politics. I don't want to like talk about this right now." It's like this is just one person. They probably did something. They probably did X, Y, Z. But thank God for the invention of the camera phone because now there is actual accountability and actual people seeing, what a lot of people of color already knew, but what a lot of other people weren't ready to listen to. So one of the big things that's been helping me process it is just kind of watching the reactions from really everyone and just kind of seeing, okay, what's happening and where do I fit into this? Because like you all were saying before, everyone has a platform that they can use for whatever purpose that they want to, or whatever purpose they don't want to, if they don't curate their message and make sure that they're saying what needs to be said. And the reason I'm like stalling a little bit is because I like journaled a lot of stuff, but forgot the password to the account because it was like an auto login. So I had to reset my password. And it's been this running joke on one of my blogs where it's like, every day I have the energy for one lucid thought about this situation. So let's see how far I can ride that lucid thought. Just to kind of get some clarity and just to, speak my truth in some way or figure out what the hell my truth is. And
it's cool.
Like, and okay, one last rant, and then like I'll get on the mic a bit.
Dude, take your time, bro. We got literally nothing else. Like, you're good, man. Like, yeah, please do. We are listening to you. We are engaged.
All right. So one of the big things, and I know you didn't do this intentionally, Koopa. Like, I know you. I love you. You're a friend. So one of the big things that I've noticed or been reflecting on the last week is how just kind of being a Black person in America requires an early recognition that you'll probably be considered as an ambassador of your race in like predominantly white spaces or like spaces where there's not a lot of Black people. And that's not something that anyone does on purpose. It's just kind of like, okay, like this person has experiences that I don't have. But my experience as a Black person is so different from so many others. And theirs are so different from so many others as well. So just kind of recognizing that first, like, okay, just because of the color of my skin, I have a role in this and people see me as, I guess, someone to speak on this. And I feel like I am someone to speak on this. But if I wasn't, then people might still see me as it just because I'm Black. And because of that, and because of, people perceiving you as that ambassador, you're going to have an impact that's beyond your intentions a lot of the times. People existing as Black will have an impact on other people around them and how they see them. Like, for example, police might see a Black person say, oh, like, okay, something's going on, it's not safe. Or someone might see a Black person and be like, okay, I'm going to cross the street. Or someone might see a Black person and think, oh, hey, it's a Black person. Like, there's impact no matter what you do in a predominantly white space when you're Black, full stop. And to kind of bring it back, like, I was thinking about how that fits into my role and like, how can someone maintain a sense of self while still recognizing that, how to put it, that weight that they kind of have to bear. And
sounds like a lot of pressure, not to interrupt you, but it can be, perceived that way by some people.
Yes. And people who are more privy to, that's what's happening, it can be a lot of pressure. Sure, you get used to it, like the brain's functionally like a muscle. You get stronger the more you lift, but like muscles fatigue too. I was way more tired this week because I knew I was processing more of this stuff and it interfered with other stuff at my job and
Yeah.
other things like that. Like y'all black people, so many black people are not okay right now and
Yeah.
they just need that space to process. Full
Absolutely.
disclosure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And yeah, like balancing that sense of self with like that role. And then I was kind of reflecting on, you know, what kind of impact I want to have on people, what kind of reflections or what kind of people I want to kind of, I guess, almost emulate or foster that same feeling of what's a good word for it? Foster that same feeling in other people's as certain people fostered in me, like certain leaders or certain like influential characters, certain cornerstones, people who
Sure.
influenced me a lot. And I was like, okay, who are these people? What are they like? What do they have in common?
Mm.
This was a lot of hours thinking, by the way. This is how I spend my nights this week. It's been a long week. And for me, and this answer is going to be different for everyone, but for me, everyone who like I want to emulate in terms of that feeling have a sense of gracefulness in them. And like I was like, okay, I wrote that in all my checklists, but what the hell does gracefulness mean? So after breaking that down a little bit more, and this is the last breakdown, after breaking that down a little more, so I was thinking for me, grace means first that someone's accepting of what's going on. They don't necessarily have to agree with it, but they see it for what it is. They see the brutality, they see the good, they see the bad, they see the great shit, they see the fucked up shit, and it exists. It exists. But also, they see how they feel, they see the system that they're a part of, they see how other people feel, and they see where they're coming from when they speak. And recognizing, you know, the full picture. That's step one. The second part is fostering a kind of intentionality behind your actions. So making sure that what you are planning to do is something that you do, and what you are planning to help with is something that you help with. Naturally, you know, basically you have to have a one mind, not necessarily one mindedness, but like a drive, a willingness to keep things moving forward towards the direction that you perceive is right. But the last part, third and most important part, is that accountability. Being willing to hold yourself accountable and being willing to hold others accountable, not just for the impacts of your actions, but especially when the impacts reach beyond your perceived intent. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people in the situation are missing right now. I'm going to say it, like a lot of the cops who are roughing people up and actually like cracking people's skulls. It's like I'm going to go out on a limb and give them a benefit of the doubt, saying that they want to do good, what their good is, but they're not taking that accountability. They're covering their badges. They're turning off their body cams. That accountability is not there. And that's what's like one of the big things that's a lot of big things are lacking, but that's one of the big things that's lacking in their sense of grace from my perspective. And that was pretty much my TED talk on that.
No, that was
That's
good,
good, man.
Yeah,
No, appreciate that. I think it was. I mean, there's so much to pull and take from that, but I thought it was. And again, this is something I can't experience in my own skin. Literally, I can't experience the things that you're going through and all that. But I thought it was, and something, a concept that didn't even cross my mind that you brought up is how, because of who you are, you're pulled into this no matter what. Like people, assume or ask you questions or kind of look up to you, whether or not that's something that you desire, as a person. And kind of the concept of you're a part of this bigger thing, but how do you keep your individuality, at the same time? I thought that was such an interesting, point that you brought up there. And I don't know, I think that's such an interesting question or conundrum to find yourself to be a part of. So I don't know how you really, balance that, or if you've really thought about that, or kind of how it's impacted you. But I thought that was an interesting thing you said.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've had to think about a lot. And I mean, one of the reasons why, like, I feel like I'm good at having these conversations because like I've taken classes on it, and there's a multicultural diversity class that I had take in my for my graduate degree, and like my professor, one, she was the absolute greatest, like full on icon, love her to death, but like she was one of the proponents of no stone left unturned. If there was something that had an impact on your identity and your, I guess, concept of yourself and other people, you had to explore it because, I mean, I'm a mental health counselor, so like you have to realize where your own stuff is coming from, so it's not interfering with what other people need. And like I know that's why like a lot of what I'm saying is coming from a place of privilege, just to kind of check myself, because I am in a position where I was able to take those classes, have those experiences, and I mean reflect on my own stuff in like honestly such a healthy and warm environment where I could realize things without judgment. Not everyone has that. So I'd like to be able to kind of, I guess, foster an environment where that could be had so that people can reflect on that and have those conversations. Because as much as I love like memeing on people and dunking on people when they say head ass shit, I try not to always do that. I slipped a couple times this week. You can check my media tab on my Twitter.
It's been every time you have it's hit.
I think it's completely understandable. Yeah. But I do appreciate what you're saying too, where you want it to be an environment for productive stuff as well. Because, you know, dunking on somebody is great, and that definitely could be a very good learning opportunity for people. But I think in terms of creating an environment where everyone can kind of learn or you know, kind of bring something, I think that's really cool. I think that's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah. Although asterisk, like say, or I guess educating people and recognizing that the system made them that way, and like it's not always their fault, doesn't excuse the accountability of that they could have figured all this shit out.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I literally Googled how to not be racist to figure out what came up. And there was a lot of really good articles. All you have to do is literally Google how to not be racist.
I was going to, but I think that's not a good bet to have in my internet search history. Yeah, I don't need that one. Yeah.
The one thing that I actually really appreciated that you said, J-Dog, was basically like kind of like alluding to where do we go from here / lack of, I guess, I'm going to call it education. I don't want to call it awareness necessarily, but there is that degree of it, because that's what we're just talking about, having a choice of how you act. But like on the police end of things, because like I know for me, I have a couple friends, close friends, who are black police officers, albeit in a place where, you know, there isn't a ton of rioting and looting like in any kind of major city. I live more suburban, but you know, they still have things like people still throwing rocks at them and basically just telling them how bad they are. And the thing is like, this is, my one friend in particular is someone who comes from a background where he didn't grow up in the best area, had kind of had to fend for himself, had some run-ins with the law, got in trouble, and then ended up getting a job as an officer, basically making a citizen's arrest through his other like dispatch job. So he essentially went full circle from, you know, growing up that area, kind of being discriminated against, essentially becoming somewhat of a cog in the system to make it in this country, because making in this country now is now more different than it's ever been, especially because, you know, don't forget about the big recession we're in from COVID. Like that's a whole different ballpark. So now you have this survival aspect hitting people on top of the already underlying layer of things that have been going on for, you know, as long as you can remember this country being founded, in terms of like skin color being an issue, especially for black people. And you know, where do we go forward with that? And I think a big part of that is being a little compassionate for the other side of things. Like, yeah, it's been pretty appalling, some of the like the acts we're seeing from police officers, but you know, and some of them are quitting, but that's a big systematic problem, right? Like everyone could quit and the whole office could go out, but then what? Then we're left with the military. Like there's other ways in which people just have to self-educate and sort of unanimously kind of understand where each other are coming from. Otherwise, what happens? We all just sort of wallow and sink to that, like, this is the worst time to be alive than it ever has, but it's really not. Like, the fact that all of this is even out and able to be talked about right now is something that's never happened. There's never been a time where you could talk about all this stuff and not be sort of just poo-pooed or shooed away for having some kind of outrageous opinion about how racism is real or how there, you know, anything like that.
Yeah. And I think like something that's I mean, one, I really agree with what you said. And like, this is a good time because everything's coming out in the open. And actually, in like stages of group development, in terms of like, it's originally for group therapy, but it's actually applicable to other sorts of groups in general. Is that there's a lot of different state or four, technically five, but really four different stages of like group development. The first one, forming, which is when the group comes together. There's usually like a high degree of guidance where individual roles are unclear, and like it's just kind of like, okay, figuring out what do we do here. The next phase is storming. That's when shit kind of hits the fan. Everyone's arguing, everyone's fighting, just to kind of figure out the in-group norms. And then after that is stage three, norming, which is everyone kind of has a role, starting to figure out how to best execute that role and figuring out what's working. And the last stage is second to last, technically, is performing, in which everything's running like a smooth oiled machine. Then the last stage is termination, but that part's not really important. But I think we're in the second phase right now at like a country scale, in which, yeah, we're storming. Yeah, shit's coming out in the open. Yeah, but it has to be said. Otherwise, we're never going to come to a consensus. This fight had to happen at some point or another, and it kept on getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. But I mean, we're finally having it, so silver lining, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, and the
It's a
one,
lot of
the
bottled up stuff. Oh, sorry. This is what it seems like. It's been bubbling under the surface for a long time. This is just like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's I'm someone that I will never be able to experience what it's like to be a black man or a black woman growing up in America. As a Hispanic man growing up, I'm very fortunate, knocking on all wood, that I've never been victim to any sort of extreme sense of prejudice outside of a couple of shitty nicknames I got in middle school and stuff like that. But like this past week been it's been very eye-opening, and I'm usually someone that kind of like doesn't like to openly speak about politics in front of people who I keep in my very close family circle, whether it be like that. I know a lot of people are in the same boat where you might be having to have that awkward race conversation with an uncle that makes a shitty joke at Thanksgiving, or somebody who's the Trump supporter that lives down the street that sees you talking about this stuff or something like that. So it's the conversation has been it hasn't always been pretty. I've had some exchanges of words with people, but I agree with what you said, that all this it's been bubbling up for so long. It's been so bad for so long here in America. And from what you've been seeing, little news that are coming out since the past, I think this is day 11 that protests have been going on in America, that it's been working in little itty bitty, in little bits. There's steps that show that maybe because you can be peaceful for so long. A lot of people have been going back to what J-Dog said about head ass comments. People are like, blah blah blah, this if the protests were peaceful, the cops wouldn't do this, yada yada yada. But peaceful protests never, people only start to listen to you when you start fighting back. That's what our country was founded on, a revolution. So
the peaceful protests were just shut down and ignored. Ultimately, there's no they're great, and that's awesome. I mean, the peaceful protests going on right now are still very good, of course. But it wasn't until it really escalated that we're seeing some changes and some, not some unity too, all across the world, everywhere, man. It's been insane, the amount of consistent positive feedback and I already said unity, but unity across the world has been really cool. So, and that's I know it's kind of easy to focus on all the negatives, because there are a lot of negatives, but man, it's been some powerful shit that has come out of this, and it's been really moving to see a lot of the shit. I go for a walk every day, and I saw a mom and her two little daughters walking with signs, and they were in their COVID masks and all that stuff, and they were going to go hold up their signs and protest in favor for Black Lives Matter. And I was like, dude, it was wild to see. It was in a very awesome and extremely touching way.
What's up, Ajax?
Yeah,
Ajax.
we are
What's
now
up?
being joined. We are now being joined by the Caballero in our usual lineup, Mr. Ajax HQ. How are you, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing my best to try and put myself together. I just flew out of work to get here because I really, really, really wanted to be on here to talk about this. How do I sound? I didn't even get to do a sound check
You
before
sound
this.
great.
You sound
You're
great.
good, man. Yeah.
Sound good?
Sound
All right,
great.
cool.
You look great.
Yeah. Welcome.
All right, cool. For one, glad to see everybody. You already know this is one of the few times where we get to actually see each other is through our cameras. So it's always a pleasure to see all you gentlemen. Especially I haven't talked to you in a while, J Dog. So I was
Yeah, it's
just
been a hot
listening to
minute.
everything you're saying, and for one, glad to see you. Glad to talk. I'm definitely about to have a very big mood change in about a second once we start talking on my end from this. But before I get into that, I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, go off. Go off.
Speak your truth.
Wait, Ajax, hang on 1 second, man. Sorry, I'm having volume malfunction issues of the worst possible time. Hold up. It's because I'm screen sharing through Discord, which is also being fed through OBS. So what happened is I was not able to adjust the volume appropriately. So hold up, because I have to stop the screen share and then do the thing.
Oh, good.
Go off, King.
All right, I'm
Yes,
actually I'm trying to calm down because I'm already getting hot about this right now. I was listening to what you had to say prior to this, and I agree pretty much with all the standpoints. Also, I really found it interesting the take that you had, or not so much take the perspective that you gave J Dog before about when it comes to this. No matter what, you end up being seen kind of as an ambassador of the thing. For very different reasons, I have been put in this situation before as one of the solo Hispanic males in my college classroom. So it felt weird to be sold out, but this is a very different time. Also, one of the things that I get to come from on this end, and I'm going to drop a lot of truths on people who hopefully hear it when I talk about this later. I have the perspective from being both on the side of being near and having a very good relationship with a lot of people who work in the police force. And I also have a very good relationship with a lot of people who not only in my family, but a lot of friends who come from very diverse communities. I'm lucky enough to be born into a family that's extremely diverse. I have nearly every nationality. So the fact that I am now, over these past few years, watching as this administration is tearing everything apart, and we are now seeing more things come to light that should have been brought to light a lot sooner. And now we have to watch as more people, unfortunately, are just taken when they didn't need to be in front of us. It's frustrating is beyond the word that should be used. This should have been something that should have been addressed so long ago, and it took all these riots, all this protests just to get something across. Reform is one of the few things that needs to happen, amongst many other things. For those who constantly try to defend the police, look, I get it. I understand. I know these cops. I am friends with many of these cops. I get it. I have trained physically in martial arts with these cops. I've gone to charity events. That is not what this is about right now. Right now, we are addressing the fact that this has been a problem for so long. And there are too many people who have gotten away with this. So you can know your Uncle Scott, your friend Ben, your Uncle Leroy. It doesn't matter who is in the police force. That one person is not enough to solve the rest of the problems that have been going on. Because we can't bring back Ahmaud. We can't bring back Trayvon. We can't bring back anybody else who's gone, George Floyd, all of them. They're just not coming back. And the only way to change this is to reform the tactics involved that are causing these issues to continue to happen in front of our eyes. I watched a video earlier today, 2 of them actually. One where a 70-plus-year-old man was knocked on his ass just trying to preach his word, bleeding out of the back of his head. For what? Trying to say something to a cop? What happened to the time where you could walk up to a police to ask for help? What happened to the time where you're able to walk up to the police and ask them for something that you needed that they can only solve? Instead, on the same grounds where they kneeled earlier that day in peace, bloodshed lays on the floor. This is not okay. None of it is okay. And I'm not saying that this is something that is comfortable for many people. I heard Haz was saying before, it's impossible to understand. Obviously, I come from a very mixed family. My dad is full Puerto Rican, very dark skinned as well. So he always got the same type of looks, the same type of behavior. My mom is as white as the back of the wall behind J Dog right now, but I never saw any of this growing up. I always saw peace, happiness, and love amongst a bunch of different nationalities everywhere between Black, Spanish, Asian. I have it all in my family. I was lucky and blessed enough to grow up with that. So watching as people right now constantly keep saying all lives matter, right now the only thing that matters is making sure that Black lives matter amongst that group. Because you can't say all lives matter if Black lives aren't actually being accounted for in that. It just doesn't work that way. So no matter what you try to do to defend that, the only thing that matters is we're making sure that reform comes to the people who need it the most, the people who actually deserve to have this change. And obviously, like, I know I'm kind of going on a bit here. I'm gonna make sure everybody gets a chance to interject. But it's like,
go on.
It's. I'm trying not to cry almost here because it's so blows my mind the fact that it's taken so long for people to even come close to understanding what's happening, let alone have the gall to sit there and look at people in the face and say that, oh, yeah, they should just go home. They should just stay home at night. Y'all weren't really loud before when it came to everybody out during these protests when we're trying to be stuck at home to not get a pandemic. Also, you weren't very loud when a lot of people had those guns on Michigan steps when they were not getting pulled aside and they were in the faces of those cops. But I don't see any of them knocked on their ass either, do I?
The side by side, like 6 days later, is insane.
It's been a full week. I'm sorry.
It's insane. It's just insane.
It's absolutely insane. Unfortunately, I've delved too much into politics for the past like 5 years and plus of my life, and I keep it off to the side. I heard Koopa saying before it's not really something that's super like calming to talk to about because it's so open-ended, and everybody deserves the right to be able to choose what side you want to choose on. Yeah, I get it, but also you could be wrong. You need to accept that. But also at the same token, the Smash community, like you guys were saying before, this isn't necessarily something we delve into. We try to keep everybody happy and talking about our video games. We want to stay off of this type of topic because that's our escape. That's what we do to get away from this. We can't do it anymore.
It's gotten bigger. Yeah.
It's beyond that point. It is way too big. I agree, we only just finally got up to 2nd-degree murder and files charged on one. We got another case reopened, and now they're looking into more. And meanwhile, I also just saw a report that New York is removing something Copus. I forget what it is, but basically removes the ability. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's that is. I can't express how furious I am with that too, because everybody deserves the right to peacefully protest and use their First Amendment rights. And for those who keep saying that they don't deserve it, then you should hold that same energy when you're sitting there talking about the fact that you say that we should just stop talking about all these school shootings when all these kids can't even go to school and feel comfortable in their own school because there's too many people out there walking around with all these other guns. Different topic, doesn't matter. Same type of concept. You can't sit there and tell people to be quiet when you don't want to be quiet about the things that don't make sense to other people too. That's the point of having these conversations. And all these protests and all this stuff is finally making change. Sure, I can understand when you talk about the rioting and the looting, but I even saw on my way home, just coming from work, multiple signs. No justice, no peace. All of a sudden, all this stuff has happened, change is starting to happen. You cannot tell people to be quiet and tell people to like silently protest like Martin Luther King when he ended up being taken out for silently protesting. He was one of the leaders of all this stuff. Well, I am sorry. It's just beyond me the type of defenses that people jump loopholes through, try to play mental gymnastics to just sit there and pretend like none of this is a problem. When I watched everybody just all those videos. It's impossible to see. Growing up as a kid, playing on the street, running with my cousins, getting pulled over by cops in front of our house because they saw a bunch of Spanish kids running down the street. It just doesn't make sense. It needs to change. I'm sorry. I'm going to pause now because like I'm going to keep going and I'm going to end up probably crying. But like it's this whole topic has been driving me absolutely batshit insane. Yeah. And I'm just at least the best thing that's coming out of this is finally we are starting to see change. I don't care if it involves the people that I know that I care about amongst the police force, as long as they come out better, then we did something right. And less people will get hurt because of it.
On your note about silent, protests and all that, I think I'm convinced at this point, no matter what type of protest or what type of resistance is put up, it doesn't matter. They're going to shut it down one way or the other. Colin Kaepernick, that was like either banned, he was fired, like he was not allowed, like all that stuff, like it was just frowned upon. And it's like, wow, how dare he? Like he tried that shit.
I'm a 49ers fan, so I saw that like day by day. I was in my job where I learned, and I left said job because I learned exactly the kind of people that I was around. Who now I get it. If you want to have your viewpoint, you want to sit there saying, it's a disrespectful to the flag. It's not correct, but it's you can sit here and try and say what you want to say, and I'll respectfully listen as long as you respectfully listen to me. But the moment you start bringing in this whole thing where you're trying to just ignore it all and look, he was right.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way to do it, because I don't even get that, because a part of the flag is being able to speak your mind into protest in a non, especially in a non-violent, peaceful way. And that's what he was doing. So even when that was happening, that was looked down upon and shut down very quickly. Yep. So it's like, I'm convinced at this point, it's not about how it's being done. It's just that it's happening that people don't like.
The opposition. Looking right at you, Drew Brees.
Oh my god. That apology really means a whole lot, but when your contract is on the line. But
I threw my Drew Brees jersey in the garbage. I'll be real. I'm a Saints fan. I threw that shit out.
Honestly,
I can't.
Yeah, you have the full right to do that. At least you didn't set it on fire for having them switch a team now. But anyways, one of the things I was actually going to say to that point, I'm glad you brought that up, Has. One of the big things I meant to end that rant on is power. People with power who are corrupt, or people who want to establish fear, only succeed through those that are silent. They only succeed through those who do not speak up. And it is something that everybody can just... It sounds easier said than done, but it is so important to talk about these things, because those who want to remain and let the course remain, that's the only way they're going to get it. And finally, it's not working anymore. And I'm hoping to hell that this finally changes something and we don't go back to the way that we used to be.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, I agree with pretty much all of that. Yeah. Big change is happening. It needed to happen. And it's about
thank you so much
time
for sharing.
Happening.
Like,
thank you for that.
Yeah, that was awesome, AJ. And like, this doesn't just happen for no reason. Like, people aren't just aren't all mad and go to the streets because nothing's happening. Like, it's not a thing that exists. It's not a thing that happens. This is happening for a reason, an important reason, and that's the reason why it's getting as big as it is. Yeah, it's important. That's why.
It's not something that just happened overnight. You just all of a sudden don't get people to do this overnight. There's a reason why every country, or every developed country that we can see recorded, is protesting and joining this. It's something I saw floating around multiple times, and I think I heard J-Dog mention it too, is that it's not that racism has gotten worse, it's getting recorded. Yep. It's not that these police brutalities are getting worse, they're getting recorded. The cell phone, like I'm not the biggest fan of the overall social media, what it's done to this world, but if there's anything that has come out for it now, is that you can't go on a news television network right now and see exactly what's happening. You're only seeing it on social media. So I unfortunately put myself through all of them. And when I say all of them, I mean I watch them all. MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, all of it. And I want to, let's say, throw my TV through the wall sometimes, but it's the only way I can remain informed. Because if I'm not being as informed, then what right do I have to tell somebody who's completely the farthest side of the other aisle that they can get that they're wrong, because I don't understand where they're coming from. But when it comes to this, so many people just don't know, and it's on us to those involved on social media. Thankfully, almost everybody is at this point. To consistently show those parents, those family members, those coworkers, like you were saying, Koopa, these videos who are just ignoring it, because you can't ignore an old man's head bleeding on the floor. You can't ignore somebody saying I can't breathe. For 9 minutes.
You can't ignore members of the press being shot at by cops.
So, I think it's
all awful.
The big underlying issue of all this is it's obviously a leadership problem, and we don't have to, it's very clear Trump wasn't prepared for any of what happened, and honestly, it's kind of weird how all this happened anyways, and it's a big systemic problem that the police is just a part of, right? Yep. So you think about politics in general, what we had before all of this happened. Literally a week before the whole George Floyd incident was a comment from Joe Biden basically telling black people they're not black unless they vote for him, which is an insane thing to say, right? And then a week later, lo and behold, here is a blatantly filmed, like, stone cold face of someone choking someone else out on the ground who is black and just not caring. And it makes you wonder, like, how did this even happen in the first place? You know, it was being recorded from multiple angles. Like, it almost looked like it was like a hired hit. Like, the guy looked like a hitman, right? Yeah. So then that makes you forget all about whatever else happens because all the riots erupt. And then from the leadership standpoint, now the response to the riots is even more outrageous. So
I mean, you got to make sure you gas out of church so you can get a photo op, right?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So then you're finding all of basically the undercover people essentially inciting the riots, and that stuff's being more and more sniffed out more than ever. And that is thankful to like the social media and to the fact that people could record and that's the thing, man. So now moving forward, you got to unify on that. Destroy the system. You could still vote for a third party. Like, you don't have to vote for the shit that's in office now. And I think that's where everyone really needs to channel this shit. Like,
history is being told from a first person point of view for the first time in a while. You know what I mean? Like, or ever, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, this is real people on the ground are showing real experience. You can't make that shit up. You know what I mean? You could twist it a little bit. Like, there's any ways, you know, you can do whatever you want and say, you know, you can twist things, but you can't fake like what's going on. I mean, unless you're like a production company, obviously there's always a loophole, of course, but for you know, in reality, there's no way to fake, you know, showing news from actual people who are actually there and actually showing you what's going on versus just being told what's going on. It's a completely different thing that has changed it. And I think a big part of the system existing the way that it does is because it's tradition, and they were able to get away with it forever because we didn't have the technology or the unity or the ways to share and communicate. Every generation, communication changes so that it's more and more instantaneous and more available to everywhere. And it's just like, remember, people thought like the Pony Express or whatever, like horses delivering letters for the first time, like changed the world. You know what I mean? But now we're going on, there's a riot and I can see it in 30 seconds. That's where we're at. You know what I mean? It's absolutely crazy. It's just changed everything. And that's why as we grow as a society in terms of technology and communication, we need to update and get better at everything else too. Like, it can't just stay behind. And it should have never been that way in the first place.
I do think
and camera phones like this for the last 15 years, by the way. So like everyone's like, oh, this is so new.
Yeah.
No, like literally the last 15 years we started recording this shit. It always just weren't listening to black people, period.
True. It's a couple things on that one. I mean, for one, I've always said that you'll never find, like, you would never find this out in the 90s. This would have been dead on day 2. Because we just didn't have the tech for it then. It would have been controlled in the narrative exactly how it needs to be. 2, there was so many more people who weren't willing to step up. Like, one of the things I heard you guys say before too, and I keep referencing past because I was listening on my way here. But you guys mentioned how some people could choose to do everybody could choose what they want to do with their platforms. That is their right to do so. If you want to remain silent, understand people are going to make sure they remember you for remaining silent. But if you want to speak up, people are going to listen to you more. I think it was just so many people who found it so uncomfortable to cross that line. Like, say, for instance, myself, even though I grew up in such a mixed family and I have every single nationality around me, I still can't speak from a black person's perspective. It just can't happen. So I can't necessarily champion that cause with getting as many people behind me with the whole ambassador thing you were saying before. It's just naturally what happens, unfortunately. But now that we've reached a point where it's gone beyond a tipping point, it has completely fallen off. So far off the cliff. Now everybody has the opportunity to say something, and it's heard because everybody is reading and seeing the same messages. So it's making it a lot easier for those with the big platforms to speak out. I think that's a big part of why we're seeing a difference now, because more people are feeling more unified behind what is just a basic human rights cause.
So
it's just that simple. And if you see it any other way, I'm sorry, you're just wrong.
And something
I want to hear Jay out here.
Okay. Yeah, something I gotta address is that something that a lot of us have said in this conversation so far is that we don't like talking about it so much. We don't like putting it out there on the platforms so much. The thing is, like, that is coming from a place of privilege, and I know a lot of people wouldn't say privilege; they get turned off immediately.
No, it's okay. Say it.
Everyone has privilege. I have privilege. Everyone has some semblance of privilege. That's just kind of, you know, where it comes from.
That's life.
And that's life. Everyone has some of it. but it's important to reflect on, what privileges you do have. And some I got to put out there is one of the things we learned about is a handy little acronym is called the addressing model, just to kind of go through each little checkbox and figure out which one you have some privilege in. So it's an acronym. So the A is for age, or basically how old you are and your culture's perceived worth of certain age groups, old, young, in between. Disability status in terms of developmental disability. So people with like any sort of mental disability, or like Down syndrome, or like so many things across the spectrum of mental health or just developmental disability or something like that. Acquired disability. So people who have like injuries, people who have became sick or ill later in life and no longer have the ability to do the things that some with the full capabilities could. Religion/spirituality, which religions are in your, I guess, culture cluster compared to the dominant religion or spirituality or practices, and how they inform which ones can be openly practiced. Ethnicity, where your family comes from, which is a huge thing in like Black culture, because I don't even know half my fucking ethnicity. All right. It was somewhere in Africa.
Yeah.
Dragged over here, cleansed, and then expected to keep up. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Ethnicity is important. Socioeconomic status, your money's power.
Yeah.
We all know that. Sexual orientation. Yeah. Y'all know about that. I don't even have to say
That's a big one.
Indigenous heritage, where you come from. And that's different from ethnicity, because indigenous heritage is like the culture that how do I put it? I could do a whole other podcast on that. I'm going to leave that indigenous heritage for now. And then national origin, naturally, what nation you live in, because Americans have a lot of privilege if you didn't figure it out yet.
Yeah.
Well,
depending.
We'll see about 10 years.
Depending.
We'll see about 10 years. Yeah.
Depending.
And then the G is for gender. And
what was the acronym again?
Addressing.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
I'm gonna probably keep that on hand too. There's a couple of them that hit it right on the nail there, especially in the recent years, more so than later with like the establishment of like what did you say? Like basically monetary status. That's always been one of the big things, but it seems to be just number one priority lately, as a way to like deter the views of the others. Like, so many people were ready to just say that there are people who should just die for the economy weeks ago, but all of a sudden you're cool with them shooting people on their own porch. But hey, don't worry about that. I'm sorry.
Literally ecofascism, but go off.
Yeah.
I linked the article, by the way. I found it.
Oh, thank you,
guys.
guys.
So it's in there. So that's cool. You guys want to educate yourselves? Because I'm bad at. I have such a bad memory. So
this looks like a good read. I'm definitely
going
gonna like deep read into that, because
I posted in the chat too, actually.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry I have to show you, like, in a way I'm sorry I have to show you guys how deep I get into all this stuff outside of here. But
hey, man,
I'm glad that we finally reached a point where we could come together and have conversations like this and understand that the things that we're doing to move forward. All I hope is that even if we get just 1 out of 10 people who listen to the podcast to go, you know what? This is different and I understand now, and I'm going to look at it differently. If we get that one person, we succeeded. And that one person is going to continue to trickle it down over and over and over again. It's the same thing as the pay it forward, in a way that we want to get those people to disperse it out. It's uncomfortable. It is not something the gaming community is used to doing. We're just worried about trying to deal with the 17th Zelda that's hit neutral B for the 13th time in a row. But it's because we're stuck at home. But you know what? Right now, what we're worried about is watching people who are driving down the street, coming from college, and they're getting ripped out of their car when there's a whole car in front of them out of curfew too, waving at a camera, and gets nothing happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're focused on right now. And everybody deserves the right to not be approached or mistreated purely by the nature of what they were born. It is just not how life is supposed to be, period. So I'm so glad that this is exactly what you wanted to bring up. I was kind of hoping this is where we were going to go with this, because I've been really wanting. I don't have necessarily a big platform, but the platform that I do have, I don't care if people want to unfollow me. If you do unfollow me because of this, I didn't need you there anyways. I'll go ahead and have people who actually care about this, and I hope that for those who do stick around, who were uncomfortable with it, at least feel a little bit more educated and understand the standpoint where this is all coming from.
And I think that's really important because being a good ally requires you to be uncomfortable. If there's nothing else that
Yeah.
anyone remembers from my
That's a good
time
point.
speaking here, I want it to be that. Being a good ally requires you to be uncomfortable
Yep.
and requires you to sit with that discomfort because it's, I mean, only a fraction of what the other person is feeling, something that you can never fully understand. But in order to begin to try to understand it, you have to recognize that it exists. And you can only
Yep.
do that by accepting their pain.
Well said.
Agreed,
I like
100%.
It's good.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I've seen for the past week plus everything going on is that everybody, a good chunk of the people, for the most part, everybody is coming together to say something about this. The NBA is coming out in full swing. You're seeing something that I saw that was that I found very interesting is that people that played cops on TV are donating to various charities. People from I forget which actor it was,
Yo,
but
Ice
somebody's
motherfucking T, bro. He
Yeah.
has been going in, and I love his Twitter and how
K-pop
quick he's
Twitter has been
Yo,
doing their
yo, all right,
Your
best,
redemption arc.
best
Oh,
healed, best redemption arc, best
That was
face
a-
turn of the entire year
That was
so
so.
far.
What an unexpected part of all of this. You know what I
Yes.
mean? You know.
unexpected face turn by K-pop Twitter.
What the
Yeah,
hell?
it's so cool to see them finally use their powers for something that is definitely what we didn't want to see anymore. I'm not even gonna lie though. I can't even front. I definitely listen to like 2 K-pop bands just in respect to them, just to see what the hype is all about.
Yeah.
Purely because they've been bombarded them.
right now.
Some of it goes off. Some of it goes off. All I'm saying
It
is Stan
does.
Luna, okay? All right.
It does. I got hit with the pop star song from League of Legends, and that kind of let me move forward in that way. Also, League of Legends songs are amazing. But
No.
yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
No,
there.
you're fine. Just like I'm just one thing that I want to kind of hammer. Like I said, like if we can make a difference on one person, it's like it just you can be empathetic and understand that there are things that are wrong, with our leadership, things that are wrong with like you said, reform is a big thing that needs to happen. And
Yep.
we're taking those baby steps to make it happen. But it starts with something that I found very inspiring, for the most part, is that you're seeing a lot of these younger people that are in politics. You're seeing a lot of these younger people kind of rise up, and these are the people that are going to help us lead this next change. So the thing that I always hammer home to people is that if you're someone that you're not sure, if there's only so much you can do, whether it's be donating or signal boosting, at the bottom line, you got to make sure to go out there and vote. Because that's like it's the age old the cure all, even though it hasn't really been as useful as one might think. But using your power to vote and to make the change, because you're seeing it happen in a couple of states. So
Well, I'm going to take it a step further, actually, because the voting one's a big one for me. It's obviously like it's a big thing, and we all have to do it. But I don't think you realize the real power of it, right? So we're seeing the systematic problems. You're seeing top level just really dysfunction before all this happened, and even before all the pandemic hit. You had all it is red versus blue, and just slinging. Neither one is a fit party. Like, you can use your vote to further extend. Like, that's your real protest. You don't have to feed into the system. Like, it might sound crazy, like, oh, someone can't win, but like, if you really, 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 really want change, like, you can't rely on either side that is currently in place, because two wings of the same bird. So
I was gonna say,
if you want real change, it's there.
As much as you're saying like younger politicians, whatever, we have
They're
two
all old as fuck.
70-plus-year-old presidential candidates.
exactly, yeah.
It's a broken system. It's awful.
Yeah, it is. It's
I'm not even
100%
getting into
broken.
gerrymandering.
That's the real problem. If you
Sorry,
wanna
Jay.
Oh,
know-
J Dog. Oh, we could talk about that for weeks. We
Yeah.
could get into that one for a while.
Yeah, because like the optimist in me is like, go out and vote, but the pessimist
No
in me
way,
is like,
not just
well,
like
in your
that.
certain regions, your vote may not mean as much as others.
Right. Yeah.
for
and it's
me,
fucked.
my viewpoint on it is like one of the people who you were mentioning, younger politicians I pay attention to a lot is AOC. And for the way I look at it, the way that she handles it is one of the best things I've seen out of a young leader in a while. For every person that calls her a bartender, she makes sure to try and change 2 more lives compared to that one person, because that one person is going to remain miserable and they're going to want the things to remain the same just because they don't like her out of spite. But she continues to push forward and make sure she makes this change. It's not just her, it's the rest of them, Ilhan Omar and all the other ones too, constantly getting bombarded and threatened daily. And they don't get the same type of defense as you see people giving cops who are shoving people on the floor. But you know what? They keep firm to it, and that is great leadership. Even people like The Rock coming out of nowhere and calling out that video is staying permanently on my phone. It was one of the best videos I've seen in a while. It's 9 minutes long or 7 minutes long, something like that. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it.
What video? The Rock one?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a 7-minute long video of him just saying, "Where is our leader?" And
it's just sorry, not to take away from what you're saying, but
No,
it's
no,
just
it's okay.
crazy how, because I love The Rock and
Yeah.
all that shit. It's crazy that I missed that because
yeah, it
there's
was
so
it was like
much
maybe
going on.
it was like maybe 2 days ago, I think it was, but it was one of the moments for me where I can't even act like I haven't been. I have been against Trump since the moment I saw him do this on screen. In the moment that I heard him say these things, when he started calling Mexicans what he did, actually, I'm gonna say it. Who cares? Once he started calling them rapists, once he started calling them illegals and all that stuff, and just like started painting the picture of them, I was automatically against it because I was like, this is not a leader. This is somebody who's gonna tear our country apart. And
Yep.
yeah, we are.
I gotta
like,
tell you, I really think it was a political play to set this whole thing up. And I hate sounding like conspiracy theory. Actually, I don't really give a shit.
I mean, at this point, it's you just preach whatever you want because we're sitting there looking at a man who gassed a church for a Bible picture.
There's that, right? But then it's just like I still look at the whole root of this thing. It's brought out all these issues that need to be addressed, of course, and it's really everyone's backs are against the wall and in survival mode, already being in isolation for 3 months before this. So it's just like obviously things are gonna boil to the top. But if you look at that initial clip, man, that looks like a fucking hired hit. No one stares stone cold into cameras recording them with a non-police move. Yes. And the fact that those guys just finally now are like officially indicted.
Oh, I don't know.
The same. It goes. I don't know, man. I'm just saying it goes pretty deep. Same coroner as like Jeffrey Epstein. Like I'm a true believer that there is like real change that could happen, and I think it's really a matter of people that need to be aware of it. Like,
so I didn't know about the coroner thing. That's news to me. But the way I look at it is like even if it was a hired hit type deal, no matter what. This is something that has been pushed for slowly. Like it's not like that people haven't been quiet about this. Remember, there was 2 good sides of people at that protest involving people with neo-Nazis. Remember, there were 2 good sides on that, right? Yeah. So because we forget that. I don't forget that.
The thing is,
but like it's no matter what, he's still kind of like even if it's not just him. This is stuff that's been pushed forward for a while. Oh, yeah. Laura Ingraham, amongst other people who are on my list that I wish could just disappear from the face of cameras and in media in general. Betsy DeVos can go along with them too. But it's like just all of that too. Oh yeah, no, I'll run down the list. I got a whole bunch of them to go. But I agree. I get where you're trying to come from, Chris. It's not like it's a super far-fetched idea to get down that point. But
the reason I got down that point is because this literally came a week after a really racist remark from Joe Biden, and the timing to me it doesn't make sense, and it's another thing that forced people in their house, like we're already forced in, and then you're seeing all the small businesses bleeding, and then now they're getting literally looted, like.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, though, like it still brings to it even whether that was any of that involved or not, it's still brought to light because no matter what, if that was a hit and everything else was normal, we wouldn't be seeing peaceful protesters getting gassed within seconds.
So right,
of even
that's
getting
the thing.
Close. Like I think that's like
it was
like no matter what, it still worked. And
'Cause-
well, at least what we're seeing now is we're seeing the positive reform
Well,
that might come from it.
this is the actual change that you need anger to start change, but it's
Yep.
really sustained through like good living and being good influence. That's where the change really hits. But think about it. If you're trying to win and the current person in charge is a complete asshole and hothead and idiot, like it would be really easy to exploit that if you just showed
He's
it.
just too busy checking out his bunker, He's just going there for
Make something
little
racist
quick
happen,
inspection. So.
force his hand, and then before you know it, you had a race war, and then now just get him out of office, please anyone, and then that's how you go back to the other side. Like it's more control.
I wish that I could believe that someone would have to make something racist happen, but I feel like the racist shit happens so often.
Oh, that's the thing. That's
it's like
that's.
I mean,
that's how
like, I can see the like plausibility behind it, but also like so much racist shit happens so often that like Occam's razor for me is like it's just more likely that another cop just went on a power trip and fucking killed
but
someone.
like what was the incentive? Was it like a personal issue? That's why I'm just so confused still.
He's been doing shit like that forever, and he finally he was mad and he wanted to take it out on somebody and abuse his power, and then he took it further. I don't know.
I'm glad you brought that up, Hez, because he had, I think it was like 12 different cases of misconduct.
Because he's lived in the system forever, where he could do shit like this and it didn't matter because he's an older person on the force, where
and that's
probably
the problem.
getting away with shit like this forever. So he didn't think twice about it. Is the problem?
The thing is, what weirds me out is the fact that was a stone cold just look. There was no reaction. He knew he was being recorded.
He doesn't have a soul because he doesn't care. And I don't think I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking.
Is it that simple? Like, I guess probably, right? Probably.
Yes. It is.
When you don't see the other person as a person, it is that simple.
Yeah. When you don't think that you're doing something wrong because you've learned forever that this is a thing that you can kind of do, or something similar to it, and there are no repercussions for your actions, and you still have that same job, why wouldn't you think any differently?
And I've always decided from pretty much like a firm standpoint that diving into the eyes or the mind of the killer doesn't change the fact that the person is still dead. And if we sit there even with the ideas behind it, making logic, no matter what, still Floyd is gone. And it's still along the same exact things that have been happening. So it's like what J-Dog had said. Even if it was all that, it still immediately pops up as just another cop who took out another black man. You can't even be a 12-year-old kid in your backyard with a damn water gun. Just playing.
Man, this isn't
you
new
can't
at
even.
all.
You can
Oh,
like
man.
it's crazy. Like
it's just saying. The last race riot that came up was before the election last time in 2016. So it's just something to kind of have on your radar that big racism issues flare up before every election.
Yeah.
There's
and also, it is definitely what his platform is buried on too. Like, I get where you're trying. I could understand that logic right there, because his whole platform is built on hate. It's built on riling up the people that believe in, for some reason, that he cares about them. Because spoiler alert, he don't like you. He doesn't like poor people. He doesn't like anybody else but himself. But it's just one of those things that if you could push the right points and press the right buttons, you could turn the right media story around to work for you. That's how you get people who are talking more about the businesses that are getting looted than the lives that are getting lost. And it is definitely exactly what even if it wasn't meant to be that, or even if it was planned for some reason, it still led to exactly what they wanted. And now we're looking at this whole argument where we have to explain to people that for some reason they can't accept that Black Lives Matter. Like, how can you even come close to
that one? I feel like they're intentionally trying to misunderstand the point. Like, it's such a point blank and easy statement to be like, yes, that's all you gotta say. Yep, that's it. That's all you gotta say.
Choosing to be oblivious at this point is just accepting the fact that you don't have a debate or argument anymore, and you want people to walk away from the fact that you've been hiding this for a long time, and now you have finally have the ability to say what you want and just let it go. That's you know what, people who sit on the wrong side of history are the ones who get forgotten at the end of the day. We're going to be the ones who end up changing this to make sure that this works out well for the youth of our next generation. I don't want my nieces growing up in this, all of them dark skinned, sitting there looking at the police and saying, I can't go to them for help. 1,300, this is something else, I'm about to cry again, sorry. 1,300 untested rape kits in Minneapolis. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That should not be a thing. how in the world, like, it just makes no fucking sense.
Right.
And it's like, but like it beyond like it's just that being another like layer in the bricks of the nonsense of the wall that he constantly tries to build around our ability to feel free. We are not going to let that stay that way. It just isn't going to. And finally people are speaking up about it. But like, God, man, it's like just watching this all transpire in front of us. Like, I don't think anyone, like the couple years ago, I mean, it's this has been around forever and we haven't had the platform to say it. But if this just kept continuing, so many people would not have realized how bad this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm pretty much on with that part.
Yeah, so I just wanted to rewind to something that we were talking about a minute ago, where like people were almost, it seemed like almost intentionally misunderstanding the message
Mhm.
of Black Lives Matter. As someone who has had that conversation and actively worked to change those minds and like illuminate those minds. I don't want to use illuminate, too much Illuminati shit.
Didn't
kind
think
of
it
better-
today, honestly.
How many times has J Dog made a triangle in this
Well, I
in
don't
this
know what you're
podcast?
talking
I have to watch the VOD, yeah. Anyway,
like
so anyway,
to help
oh,
better
I mean,
inform
sorry.
to help better inform those people of like why that message is so wrong. It's not that they don't want to get it, it's because, and this goes way further back.
Yep.
One of the reasons why it's so hard for Americans specifically to identify the concept of race and racism is because like in desegregation, the message was color doesn't matter anymore. And desegregation was we're all equal now. It's good now. When in reality, that was
Right.
never the case in the first place. And now that it's like we're about 200 or like 150 something years removed from 13th Amendment, people are like, oh, it's been so long, we're good. When in reality, first off, the systems that kind of trickle down from generation to generation is absolutely unreal. I had a whole other journal thread about it this week. I can dive into it later if you all really want to. But the big thing is that people are taught that race doesn't exist for the longest time. Like, I don't know, we're all 90s babies here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times has everyone heard like, oh, like I don't see color, or color doesn't exist? We're all human. We're all American.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
To be honest, hey, I'll say
I
it
think Michael
straight,
Scott said that, which is how you know.
I'll say it
100%
straightforward from
correct.
my perspective on this too, in a manner that wasn't meant to be insulting at all. I didn't see color because I grew up around everything. So for me, it was a little different on that. But now being exposed to it time and time again and realizing exactly what I saw as a kid wasn't bullshit. It was things that were being picked on by my cousins who were just walking down the street, or just watching friends of mine who were getting thrown into jail because they got mistaken for somebody else who looked like them. And then they got released 3 days later because it was a Friday night and they had to wait to see the judge on Monday. It's like, why did they deserve to deal with that? They don't need to. And like, it's just absolutely crazy to see now that that viewpoint is pretty much become the like all lives matter viewpoint, where it's like, oh yeah, everybody counts, everybody matters. I saw somebody say something very interesting the other day where they're like, a baby got killed by a product, and then on the response of the prison, on the response of the court, somebody just hops up and says, no, this shouldn't matter because all babies matter. How stupid do you sound?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that how,
Seen a lot of great metaphors for like why it's silly to counterclaim that.
Yeah, it's just
You go to the hospital and your arm's broken, and they're like, "We got to take care of your arm," and you're like, "Yeah, but all my bones matter."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
All arms in this hospital matter. Yeah.
I'm gonna start saying all my bills matter when it's only like my $50 bill. It's like, hey kid, so I want all of them to be like this. Can we keep it like this?
Yeah.
On J-Dog's point too, like if that's, kind of what was communicated at the time, that everything is good and everything's fine, now that, suddenly like we're declaring it like everything's fine now, this is all good. There was no kind of where we're at back, kind of bringing it back to where we were before. There's no way to kind of disprove that. Like if you don't include yourself to see that other point of view, you're never going to learn that. And B, it's a lot easier for people to say, yep, I accept that. That's cool. That sounds good, rather than face it and go out there and say, no, it's not. Like, no, it's not. And let's change this. We need to make this better. It's easier for people to just ignore it or accept a false reality that's fed to them that says everything is okay. It's much easier to accept that for a lot of people. It's getting harder to keep that facade up because of where we are in terms of communication and technology and all that good stuff.
It's drilled into people's heads so young that before you even have the ability to critically think, that is just kind of accepted as normal. And that's why Paw Patrol is absolutely evil. Paw Patrol is functionally cop propaganda. The shit is wild. All right? All dogs go to heaven except the class traitors in Paw Patrol. Fuck.
I
my
saw
God.
that meme and it made me hilarious. It made me laugh so hard. Also, if I could stop having to buy my niece's Paw Patrol stuff because it's so expensive, that'd be
Smooth.
great. But
Defund.
Like, bro, the shit goes so
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But and it's funny because, well, not funny, but it's interesting because I was talking to like Sylvanas last week on Mr. R had us on a podcast, and just the different experience that we had just growing up, our different perspectives in lives, based on, who we are and how we were raised. I was always raised and taught cops are our friends. They're going to help us and they will. And it's a complete opposite lesson that is being taught, in communities not too far from, where I grew up. It's just the opposite. It's just it was a realization I think that we both had. He was like, I didn't even know that was a lesson that was being taught, to white kids, or at least it was in my household. And I think for the most part, that's the lesson that's taught, is that cops are our friends, that they're going to help us. That's what I grew up with. You know what I mean? That's what I was taught because it was true for me and for my family. It's true.
So I think the best place to take this now is like, so like what's next, right? Everyone's pretty upset, pretty stressed out. Twitter's and all reality seems to slowly be going back to normal, but you can't really forget about all these things at all, especially not now. Obviously, everyone's still kind of in that mode where you're just kind of drained, a little too tired to do anything. Meanwhile, I hate the saying, but it's kind of the truth. Even if someone passes away, it's like life goes on, right? So, but how do you go on in the right way? What are the right mindsets to have? What are the things you're supposed to do? How does this all come full circle? When does it make sense? Because, we could sit here and kind of talk about how, the basically infinite piles of this kind of bullshit that sort of mounts on all ends and how everything feeds into one another. But like, if you're a person, what do you do to move forward? Because you could either just kind of curl up, you accept it, and you say, well, I can't wait for the election to come, and we'll just get this asshole out of office. Or it's like, what else is there, right? You just get better, and that's kind of trying to segue a little bit into some next topics, but I don't want to cut anyone short either.
So I just want to say two quick things on it. For one, we have been keeping Koopa silent because we keep jumping ahead. So I want to hear what Koopa was trying to say a couple times there. Two, it speaks exactly to the point of what Has and both J-Dog just said. It has to start from childhood. We have to teach, like, the next generation is what grows up to this. A lot of what we're seeing right now, all those parents who were there in those segregated schools back in the 60s, they grew up and had kids, and it's not like they just forgot how to be racist. They taught their kids how to be that way. Like the police dog thing I said earlier, I have been personally involved with those police attack dog seminars, and I've watched this. Those dogs are perfectly trained to do exactly what they say. Obviously, you're not going to train a kid to be that way, but you want to teach them the right way. You want to teach them that everybody matters. That's when all lives will matter. When you teach them that everybody's life is caring and mattering. That's why you don't see little kids when you see a white kid go to a black kid and they say, "Oh, I'm scared." You don't say that unless you're taught that. But if you teach them to love and care and have compassion for each other, whether they are of different ethnicity, a different conforming gender, it doesn't matter. People deserve the right to be happy and to live a life that they want to live. And that only starts by making sure the next generation that grows up is taught that. Because if we don't, we'll be looking at this when we're all sitting in our chairs talking to each other on whatever form of like Discord we got when we're in our
Zoom
70s. And we'll be sitting there like just talking about it while we're watching the kids of our next generation repeat the same mistakes that was happening amongst our own because they weren't taught right. So I'm hoping the best thing that comes out of all of this as the next step is that enough people who didn't understand before, they learn now how to properly not only handle these situations, but how to teach the kids of the next generation who are just absorbing all this and only learn this through learned behavior that this is not right and we need better change.
That's like that's a bit of an interchange too, if I may, because I know a lot of parents don't have kids thinking that they don't know things. You know, you have a kid and you're in the position where you have to just sustain a life, let alone realize that if you have the right take on something. So, you know, as far as moving forward goes, like work yourselves out, man. No one's perfect. Always strive to being a little better inside, and that's stuff that does reflect externally. If you do something right, like, you know, internally, and then that comes out even in a conversation, that creates you know, it's literally a vibration. That's a flow in the water. You throw a rock in the water, it ripples, man. If you do the right things inside, and people see you doing the right things, or you even just kind of like allude to them, it makes a difference.
Yep. It's kind of like the inverse of that, being a positive, or no, I guess it's the same thing, but being positive. And J-Dogs, you brought up you're like one person, you know, made a big difference in your life. That the professor you were talking about who helped guide and mentor you, you know, not necessarily 100% related to what we're talking about, but one person, you know, positive role model, and that's why it's so important to talk on these platforms, and so important to use, even if it's big voice, small voice, whatever. It's so important to not just, you know, educate people, but to listen and learn, and then like inform yourself and listen to people who experience things that you can't experience, and then not speak for them, but to share their experiences and say, hey, here's what's going on, or here's my understanding of what's going on, and make it a conversation and make it a learning point, and learn and grow along with your fellow humans. I think that's a really, really important lesson.
Yeah, I think it's really the only lesson, because we're at a point now where we're basically just you know, we're sort of being sheltered and fearful now. Not everybody's outside. You can't really identify the things going on for yourself. You're at the whim of what you're seeing being pushed through, you know, social media, which is your least, I say least bias, but everything's gonna have bias. But then you have your news stations where everything's gonna have a spin, because that's all politics right there. Someone's funding that news station for votes, and because that's the way the system works. So really, all you can do, and this kind of comes back to where we started this podcast. You know, if you're a content creator, use your platform, spread good ideas, teach people how to be better. I mean, that's a big thing that I've been trying to do with Masterhand now, and it's a big reason why I'm kind of maybe taking a little bit of step back from Smash events, because it's like there's got to be more out there. Like even the mindset of Wi-Fi, which is another topic we have today that's kind of tucked away. Like how you approach things, how you think of them, what you want to get out of them, you know, the overall feeling you get, because that's the shit that kind of manifests in the collective, how everyone else feels. Like right now we're just tired and worn out.
Yeah. And actually, while everyone was talking, I've made up like a quick little roadmap. J-Dog's 5 steps for what to do next after
5-step plan.
I like
it.
5-step
plan for post-witnessing police brutality. So first thing is reflect on yourself. Like I said, that addressing model, realizing where you're coming from and what place you're speaking from, not only what you perceive yourself as, but what others perceive yourself as too. Because, you know, Ajax, you were talking about how your dad was, you said Dominican or?
No, so my dad's full Puerto Rican, but he is like he's darker than you. Like
exactly.
So he was always perceived in the same way.
Bingo. That's where I was going with it. Yeah, because like, you know, people will look at him and see, oh, you're black, and like his experience is so different from like a black person, like knowing where you come from, for example. So reflecting, like, you know, on your own stuff, reflecting on what other people perceive you as step 1. Step 2 is educating yourself, especially in history. I know like 3 people whose favorite subject is history. But history is so important, especially right now, because they always say this shit's repeating itself, and it literally is. We are like about 80 years in the past, and shit's just coming back again. All right. So you got to recognize where we're going, where shit came from, how we got here. And then after that, talk to other people, kind of like what Chris was saying, because unless we all talk to each other and have an open, honest dialogue, and open and honest will get ugly sometimes. But unless that dialogue happens in the first place, not much is going to change. All right. We have to argue. Sure, arguing is tiring, but we got to argue. We got to fight. All right. For whatever you believe in. And eventually stuff comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
Right. Just have to be willing to recognize where the other person's coming from, and recognize if their platform for what they're speaking on is even valid in the first place. I'm only adding that asterisk there because white supremacists are on some shit. And like they will say some wild shit and think that they're in the right, but their platform is flawed. You have to really listen and think critically. Step
It's a
4.
big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. Step
Critical
four,
Yeah.
thinking is just
yeah. Step four is sitting with your discomfort. Like I said, shit's uncomfortable. All right.
Mhm.
You gotta write it out. You gotta keep on powering through. And step five is just being willing to recognize different experiences are happening in the first place. All right. And unless you can do that last one, especially, nothing's going to change. Because, like it or not, you're part of the system. We all are. How can we change it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
well said, dude.
Yeah,
Especially
you know,
on that platform thing too. That's what I was saying before. I kind of want to throw my TV through the wall sometimes, but unfortunately, the only way that I can remain unbiasedly informed is to watch all of it. The same thing. You have to for one pick and choose the right stuff, but you have to be informed and watch to see where these perspectives are coming from, so you can understand. Especially the ones that make you feel uncomfortable, because those are the ones that are either gonna enlighten you or make you realize exactly how far-fetched and how ridiculous some of these ideas are, and how many, like I said before, mental gymnastics people are willing to play just to make sure that their point gets across to the right people who will hear it, that will continue to spread the hate. We don't want that anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. And Cooper, what were you about to say? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, you guys don't have to apologize. You know, this is partially why I'm so glad that that I have YouTube. Everybody here today is, but obviously specifically J Dog and Ajax. You know, you guys just brought such a great level of just a lot of experience, a lot of blood in the ground, and just life experience on what's going on here. And I'm just a simple host. I'm here to just to just keep the drink stirred. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. The awkward it all starts just having that awkward and open conversation with somebody. We're all going to be having those conversations with those relatives. I've had a couple myself. I'm prepared to have a couple with some more
Shout
people.
outs to the young boy Sean Fang, who went out and stood his ground and fought for what he believed in. Went to a protest and actually got kicked out of his house. But because he was trying to make a difference. I don't know if he's back in there or not, but like he stood his ground against what
I know he's
he knew
I know
was
he's
right. So,
okay. I've spoken to him.
That's good.
yeah, I messaged him immediately like I would do for any of y'all here, and I've told other people before. If y'all need you already know Koopa, you've crashed out here multiple times. Like my couch is always available for somebody to pass out on, because I'll make sure that anybody who speaks up for what they believe in is gonna have a spot to make sure that they can recoup later. But to see that he stood up for that, and I've seen a lot of people who are young, who normally want to do that, standing up for what they believe in. This is the part we wanted to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can, I felt for him because just on that point, I've been very fortunate to have parents who were incredibly progressive. My parents went to Woodstock. My parents are hippies. They've been around. They've been in the thick of this since it started. Like you said, 60, 70, 80 years ago, or however long it.
Yeah, they're the OG fighters for this type of cause, man.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
they are the original allies. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, I've always been instilled in me to fight for what I believe in. By my parents, and again, it all starts with these open and honest conversations that you got to have with people. And like I said, if you feel like that your platform isn't big enough, there are tons of ways you can help. If you don't want to, if you can't go out there and protest, there's tons of there's tons of charities you can donate to. You can donate to the NAACP. You can donate to all. Look, just go on your Instagram stories. Look, I've been finding all the links that I've been donating to, whether it be bail funds or this and that. Just everybody is working together to signal boost this. Nothing has been lost in the shuffle. In these 11 days, and you got to keep. It's just one long game of telephone. You just got to keep everything going and recirculate it, and don't let this fall by the wayside, because as you've seen in the news, it is working. It's small baby steps, climbing up the mountain, but it's working. So don't let up.
People are even Twitter clickbaiting almost at this point. A lot of the models who constantly just put up photos, or people are saying like, "Oh man, I cheated on my boyfriend right in front of him. What happened?" And then underneath it, it's just those are my favorite people right now. You are the best.
I can stop them now, but initially it was like, check out this crazy new PlayStation 5. I was like, all right, I know what that is, but that's awesome.
I thought it was both a nice way to make light of a moment that was definitely uncomfortable for people, and also a great way to get word out, because it's got shared so fast. Because it's not only clickbaity, but also it's spreading the right message. So you're right. It's like the news may not have it, but it's you literally can't avoid it unless you're trying to dodge it on purpose on social media. It's everywhere.
Yep. And if you guys are looking for where, if you're watching this later, whether it be now or a couple days from now or whatever it may be, just all of our social medias have been big on retweeting, where you can donate to to the various category, to the charities and stuff like that. So that was powerful conversation. I can't thank you guys enough for wanting to partake in that, because like I said, it is uncomfortable, but it's important, and it needs to be talked about. And I'm very fortunate, and privileged in my own right, to have such a great arsenal of colleagues and friends and you guys, that we can have these open and honest discussions, and to provide so much insight for people that might be stumbling across this later. And if we can just change one mind, or kind of shed the light in a different way for somebody, I can't thank you guys enough for partaking in that conversation with us. So I know we don't all have a lot going on right now, but we I really appreciate your time. And
I may have flew here from a 14-hour shift, but it's
there's not much traffic. Let's be real.
Yeah, but you know what? It's I can't thank you enough, just from my perspective. Being able to put this type of use the platform and use this type of podcast, like you said, as long as we change one person, as long as we reach a new voice or a new ear to hear the voices of what we're trying to say, and hopefully somebody changes their mind of the way they looked at things before. That's all that matters. And also it definitely helped, even if it's just us venting to each other about this stuff. Being able to actually vent about it amongst people who are willing to listen is very helpful, because like I said, I tried not to cry, but I broke down a little bit, because it's just been so frustrating to not have the right people to, like, the right voice to get it out to. And also arguing with, unfortunately, I've disbanded some people who I used to call friends recently, because of things that are happening. Because
the block button's a beautiful thing.
Blocking IRL, man. Like, some people I just straight up won't talk to anymore, because they really showing their true colors. But you know what? The only colors I care about are the ones that I see of, like, across the screen right now, of people who I care about. As long as I get to see my friends afterwards who actually showed that they have care for every life, that's what matters. And at the end of the day, Black Lives Matter, and you cannot change that. This will continue to keep going until we make sure that that is a true statement.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to take this as a growing opportunity. I think that's really the only way you could take any of this stuff. And if you guys don't mind, I do sort of want to transition to maybe a little bit of a cool down, where we do sort
of use it, not gonna lie.
We bring things back around to how you could make kind of a positive change, and sort of build on something that otherwise feels massively toxic that you really can't do anything about. Like, that is literally the ingredients to everything we're seeing right now. And speaking of privilege, basically being able to talk about video games at all right now, and being healthy and in a place. But I mean, this is a conversation you brought up last week, and I really just love the idea in general, in terms of just an overall mindset for Wi-Fi gameplay. But this is something that does sort of translate to just general mindset altogether.
That was a clean transition, dude.
Thank you.
That's fucking off. That was so good.
Dude, thank you.
Chris is like PowerPoint.
I'm a talker, man. I don't like to talk a lot, but I know how to, I guess.
You're good at it. Yeah, I agree.
It was a clean ass transition.
Thanks.
So improving. So kind of where do you want to jump off here? I guess is my question. How to say, like, do you want to talk about the healthy Wi-Fi mentality, or how to kind of
how do you still enjoy Smash after playing Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is the worst. I suck at it. I don't play. I go 0-2. I used to go 2-2. It's a piece of shit game. Fuck this game. Nintendo needs to get good.
And you sucked anyway. First off, all right. No, I'm just kidding. See ya. So the answer is, Wi-Fi is a different game. Everyone's got to view it that way. I think it's pretty accepted at this point that it's just a different arena. Like, it matters, but because it's all we have. But it also doesn't matter because it's Wi-Fi. So it's a little bit of back and forth. We were saying it off air before, where if someone calls a big upset, like if Tweak loses like round 3, like, good for the person that beat him. Tweak's obviously that sucks. Like, he's gonna have to eat, or Nairo or Mars. Like, I'm not picking on Tweak specifically here, obviously, but whoever top player X loses in round 2, it's like, shit. They're gonna have to eat shit on Twitter for a while. So, like, the stakes are so high for that person in terms of mental health, because that sucks. Like, that's just a part of, like.
Is it considered an upset anymore if people actually beat Samsora on Wi-Fi?
Tapoyo. That's it.
Oil rankings, man.
Pollo
the
PR is
rankings,
eternal,
man.
bro.
I don't have enough alcohol in the house to start talking about that.
We can't even say nothing, man. J Dog was there to experience Pollo in his prime, so I still remember the Pollo pop offs from Smash 4.
Love that guy, but he's a character. All right.
I think in terms of like, so when you consider something like that, where even little professionals understand, like so far to the point where some won't even enter tournaments, like Mars and Light, they haven't been my favorite players in the world, have not been playing Wi-Fi tournaments, like unless it's a Quarantine Series Invitational and it's a little different, whatever.
Money.
Yeah,
Got
money,
something to gain
sure.
from it, and and that's understandable. Yeah. Incredibly understandable.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like. So for me, I was getting frustrated with Wi-Fi because I'd log onto Elite and lose to some sweaty, what was I saying, a sweaty joker who would get Battlefield and just circle camp me for 7 minutes on Wi-Fi. I'm like, all right, obviously, it's an annoying strategy offline, but way easier to deal with, if there isn't even a little bit of latency. But it's like, all right, you got it, man. Like, congratulations. And you start kind of going into these things that don't really exist in offline, where offline you sit, and this is something I love about Smash. It reminds me of the old. Did I say this last time? I feel like I've said this somewhere else, or either way, I don't remember if it was on the show. Just stop me if I'm repeating myself. Is my point. But it reminds me of the old. The thing I love about Smash is that it's very personal. It's very it reminds me of the old arcade days, man. The best. You got to sit next to the person. You got to share elbow room with them. You got to play against them, and then there's no excuses. You lost because you're sitting there and you're playing the game. I mean, you can't. Obviously, John's exist. My controller is fucked up. Whatever.
I'm still playing on setups with no sound in 2020.
But literally, everybody on Wi-Fi already has that built in. Like, win or lose, you're already. It's literally a different meta. Like, characters are literally better or worse right now. That's a thing. Like, it is a thing. So it's like you got to remove yourself from these situations where you're playing and sitting there and getting frustrated because things beyond your control are happening to you, such as bad connections, someone playing in a way that's extremely good on Wi-Fi that's frustrating to you because whatever. So what I recommend is playing in ways that are productive to helping you grow as a player, and not really. It's hard right now because developing Wi-Fi habits are a thing that are just going to happen, but trying to use sessions to be as productive as possible is kind of where I'm at with the game. If someone circle camp me with a joker, maybe I can look at different ways to approach that, or unique and interesting situations to do it. Someone wants to camp me, all right, I'll camp them right back. That's fine, like whatever. If that's how we want to lock in, that's okay. But the way I'm doing that is by minimizing the ways that I play the game that make it not fun for me. Because right now it's not really. I want to get better, obviously, like, that's always important. But the important thing is learning so that when we get out of this. Quarantine, get back to real events, I'll be ready in a different way. Learn a matchup, learn what I can do in this situation, X, Y, or Z. And if the execution doesn't come out perfectly, if I read something and for whatever Wi-Fi eats in one of my inputs, yeah, I get mad, but I'm like, okay, I probably would have hit that offline. But at least I had the right read, like kind of looking at the silver linings or the positives in your play, or trying to look at ways to get better. So minimizing those things, like not going on Elite and opening up an arena with trusted friends who have a good internet connection, immediately alleviate so many things about playing online Smash, because you don't need to protect your ego, which is a huge part of it. The ego protecting is just a huge part of it. Like someone getting your tag and they're feeling good about themselves, or you're picturing the worst case scenario in your head when you lose or when you start losing, right? Because there isn't someone sitting next to you and you can't know what the situation is, So you just imagine, or at least I do, and I think a lot of people do, you imagine the worst case scenario because you're losing. So you're already feeling bad. So you're just going to amplify that and make it feel worse. So if you're playing against someone, we talked about this when we commentated together. Reggie, I fucking repeat myself all the time. I don't know what to tell you. There's not a whole lot going on in life right now. So. That's right, though. You're right, Reggie. I do remember that. And so it's like, just fucking play with your friends, man. And if they're good players, you're going to get better anyway. That's how most people get good, regardless of Wi-Fi or not. You play with better players and you ask them what to do, and you learn from there. And execution isn't going to be perfect, but that's okay. You just got to accept it. Execution isn't going to be perfect for the other guy, too. You've definitely cheesed out wins that you didn't deserve on Wi-Fi because they missed one of their confirms because of Wi-Fi. Like, that's definitely happened on the other side, too. So you just got to roll with the punches, accept it for what it is, and try to make it a learning environment and not an environment you're trying to win in. Obviously, if you're in a tournament, it's a little bit different. But every time you log in and play, unless you're in a bracket, it should be a learning experience. And I believe that for offline too.
Yeah. Honestly, you hit a lot of that right on the head. Like I wasn't playing a whole lot for a little while there because my primary focus was I told myself I wouldn't compete in bracket until I made it notable enough that I was able to be picked at major events for commentary. So like I stuck off of it for a while because I wanted my primary focus to be one. Now that I'm stuck at home, I've been playing a lot of Elite Smash, And one of the things that at least it's been good for me is that I've been getting a lot of matchup experience and at least playstyle experience, more so importantly, against things that necessarily you don't get to do. Because I remember one time Light had talked about something he talked to Anti about when he was first on the come up becoming better, is that you have to have two playstyles. You have to have the professional playstyle, and you have to have the your round one pools playstyle, because you can get completely destroyed by somebody who's making the dumbest decisions in the world, but because they're so dumb, you don't think to look at what they're gonna do next. But for that person, it's the best possible gameplay they have because they know this is what works for them normally. So on Wi-Fi, you at least get to play against those type of playstyles more. The people who will sit in the corner, the people who will constantly the link flow chart. Boomerang, bomb, arrow, grab, rinse, repeat until they win. It works so much.
Boomerang down makes me so mad.
Boomerang down. I get
dude.
frustrated as hell every time I get hit by that because I try to parry or I can't really react online. But even with my great connection, like at least if I'm learning from that in the middle of the pandemic, then I'm getting something positive out of it. And just don't let those people who get under your skin, like me, I'm a troll. So if somebody starts like teabagging on me, I'm making it my dedicated cause to beat them. Like no matter how hard I have to, and then I'll dip after that 1W. I don't care. I want them to be pissed. But you know what? You got to walk away from it in some form of happiness, because it's not like I haven't gotten salty too. If it ruins your day, you're not enjoying the game. And if you're not enjoying the game, then there's no point in continuing playing because it's just going to make you hate the game.
Fucking take a break. I did. I'm taking a break right now. I haven't played like 5 days just because I was like, don't really want to right now. But I'm getting, good people are asking me to play it. I'm like, all right, I kind of want to play again. Like I'm getting there for sure. And it's like, instead of there's one point I really wanted to go off of. Aside from that one, where it's like play when you want to. That's also a big one. Don't force it. I totally agree. That's such a good point because you're not. A lot of pro players
aren't doing it because like forcing it on themselves is only going to make them pissed off, taxed out, and that's why they hold off.
Yeah, I remember
it's not worth it.
It's similar to like the two different play styles thing. If you like just learning to play different ways and visually seeing and learning, like if I go to a tournament now and a Joker starts circle camping me on Battlefield, I'm like, I've literally seen this before. I know what I need to do, and now I can do it. Like just learning that back and forth is something I can do on Wi-Fi. Can I do the execution? Yeah. Can I wait it out? And do I want to be patient? Probably not when I'm playing on Wi-Fi, but if I can sit there and grind it out and learn that matchup, you have to do that shit anyway. I have to learn how to play against camping characters anyway offline because that's going to happen. That's a real thing. That's a tournament experience. Exactly. And just visually understanding and knowing what you're looking at that's matchup experience. Just knowing what you want to do against it. It's so important. And you can learn all that shit. Even who gives a shit if you lose on Elite Smash? I know it's easy to say because I'm not playing right now, but who gives a shit? Like, okay.
That's why I've always liked to say that this game is like quote unquote balanced in a way that it's we have 80 plus characters. And it's nearly impossible to know all those matchups. So you shouldn't be looking so much for the matchups all the time. You should be looking for the play style. You should be looking for habits. What are the defensive habits? What is their flow chart? Because you got three situations. You got neutral game and center stage. You got control of the sides when it comes to ledge trapping, and then you got disadvantage control. That's it. That's really the three situations you're always constantly looking for in this game, unless you're just taking your controller and doing this the whole time. But like it's
disadvantage, advantage, and neutral, pretty much. Yeah.
That's all.
Disadvantage is huge. And advantage, dude. You can learn so many things about yourself. Like I wasn't even thinking about
Mars in depth and watch how ridiculous. Like his defense is so good, but his advantage state control is insane.
He brought up. He's been doing too. Another great way we can learn, because you don't need to go on Wi-Fi and get on Elite to get better. You should listen to fucking top players. This is all just about improving in general. Like you should listen to experts. Don't just go out there and learn from yourself. Mars, dude. He was watching himself play against Dark Wizzy. He parried a back air. He goes, all right. So I also noticed after parry, he spot dodged a lot. A lot of players do that. I was like, what? They do? What the fuck? That is news to me. Yep. Not me. I whenever
like
I mash, but
like I got lucky enough to like be able to cast with Nairo recently on the Collision Online thing, and the entire time he would start speaking about a situation where he knew someone was coming, I stopped speaking entirely, because one of the things I like to preach is that exactly what you just said. When top players get on the mic, it's not like it doesn't matter how they got on there. Listen close to what they're saying, because they see things in a view that you just don't. And if you want to learn how to understand the game from a finer perspective, even if they're joking, when they talk about, they jumped again. Why did they jump again? What did they do? What caused them to get to that point? Because they saw it. And if you didn't see it, you should go back and find out why they saw it. It's like it's so important to listen to them. It's so good.
You know who did a great job with commentary like that was Coney with Zero when Void won Smash and Splash. He did such a good job
Yeah,
commentating.
that's actually a really good reference.
And not like it seemed like Zero was talking over him, like if you don't really pay attention, but Coney led him the entire time. He said, "This is fucking Zero. Like this is fucking Zero. This is the best person who's ever played this game. He knows what the fuck he's doing." I'm Coney. I'm a great commentator. I know my stuff about this game, but nobody knows the game like Zero does.
Yep.
That's just facts. Like that's so Coney, being a smart guy and a great commentator, recognized that and was like, I'm going to let Zero take the lead. But as a good commentator, my job is to lead him to say the good things, not to try to, compete with him or not to try to even piggyback off of him. It's like, just fucking let him go, man. And just let him go. But I am going to dip. I'm glad we got through that first conversation and got to go into this a little bit, but it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to go.
Yeah, it's getting a little late. It's probably about that time.
It's been like 3 hours, so I'm going to dip right now. I don't know if you guys want to or what, but if you guys
I'm still good.
I don't want to rush you guys out. I'm going to go.
I'm still good. I want to hear what I kept jumping ahead of J-Dog before he could
I
say
know.
something.
I want to hear what
I'm
you
so
guys
sorry.
got to say too, but I really got to dip. I was supposed to dip like a half hour ago, so it was
Okay.
awesome talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on. Love learning. You guys are all good men, obviously, capital G, capital M. Always good to learn from you guys and share experiences. So I'm out, and peace to you guys and peace to the chat.
Yep. Peace, man. All right. Right, where were we? Oh yeah, Wi-Fi. Honestly, my only big thoughts on it was I swore to myself not to play Smash Online seriously for money in 2009, and I've stuck with that promise to myself because I played Brawl Wi-Fi. I did not have fun, and I've learned that rest in peace Brawl Wi-Fi. But I've learned that playing in suboptimal conditions sucks, and you'll always have an excuse for yourself. So honestly, if you are putting your environment where you aren't playing to learn in the best way possible, then you're almost like hindering your enjoyment of the game, just intentionally feeding yourself bad experiences of the game. All right.
I'll say it from two perspectives because I used to be a very big Wi-Fi warrior when it came to Mortal Kombat 9 and Soul Calibur. I used to play those like extensively. That's pretty much how I got into esports in the first place. And even though I got washed hard the first time I went to a Mortal Kombat tournament, I ran into one of the best players of the game at the time, and I also ran into Justin Wong at a New York tournament. And that was when he was diving into Mortal Kombat for a short span. And guess what? You want to know how many times I hit him? Once. Twice? No, I got lucky to hit him one time. But that exposed me to the fact that there was a bunch of different things that I didn't know. But in a short span after that, I adjusted heavily because I still had the matchup experience. I just didn't have the timing. And even though it could be frustrating because lag sucks, like it's not like it was good. And back then I wasn't on a good connection. Now I have a great one, but I was on that stupid Frontier nonsense that was before. Yeah, I was the Walmart Wi-Fi, but but you know what? It still taught me a lot about the game that I wouldn't have known if I didn't try it. So with Smash, obviously we don't have a good connection. It just sucks. There's nothing to defend about it. But at least if you go on there and you don't do like what you just said, where you're not trying to win money out of it, because all that's going to do is ruin you if you get a lag spike. It's like, well, I just lost $200 because of a lag spike. Well, don't do it. It's not worth it. Like they get that matchup practice, get that experience, get that stuff that's going to teach you. Because there's a reason why Nairo and people are so consistent. Foe was a god for a long time with his Smash 4 Wi-Fi streams. He ran the Smash 4 Wi-Fi streams for a little while there, and he brought that Ness into what was definitely not a Ness favored meta with very good sword characters running everywhere, and still made it work because he had that experience. So I think that we'll see people like D13, I believe was his name, right? The one that was
the kid,
the kid who was watching Samsora and then started like playing everybody else. With the Pokemon trainer, him. Like we'll see kids like him who will now he was able to get a platform. He obviously playing in suboptimal environments overall, but he might be one of the next big things because of Wi-Fi. So there's positives to it, but it's there's definitely a lot that could go wrong with it too.
And like for real, like it's important to just put yourself in a place where you enjoy the game, number one, and like losing a lot of money in a game with things that you can't control is not fun.
Yep.
And then the second thing is that there's plenty of different ways to improve beyond just playing the game. And Smashers have been historically so bad at that.
Oh
Yeah.
Like VOD review, mental drills, shadow boxing. There's so many different ways to like get good. It's
Literally
not only about
we
playing.
still don't have a legitimate training mode.
Tragic. So my 2 cents on this situation is just big picture. You know, there's a lot of shit happening in the world now and every day.
Yep.
I am personally not going to trash my mental health any more than it already is by subjecting myself to Wi-Fi. When I do indulge and want to feel just something in the tinge in the back of my brain, when I play Wi-Fi, I don't play any of the characters that I play offline. I'm using this as an opportunity to educate myself on characters. You know, that's been my whole mantra while I've been in quarantine. I'm trying to teach myself. You know, I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to teach myself a whole bunch of new things. Like, for example, I got ordained as a minister.
Congratulations.
Another-
That's amazing.
Another
Congrats.
example,
Go
I'm gonna
for
teach
that.
myself how to skateboard.
Let's go.
So
Ooh.
I'm just trying to like do things
Yeah.
to keep my mind busy. And even in Smash, I'm playing characters that I don't play. I'm playing characters that I would never play. I don't tell Haz I've been playing a Shoto, just so you know. Don't let him hear him say that. So
Don't tell anybody I've been playing a lot of K. Rool lately.
yeah, it's fine. Me too.
Mad fun.
Plus-
The character's mad
K.
fun.
Rool's so fucking stupidly fun. I hate it, but he's such a troll. I can't help it.
Like with square wheels. It's just something's.
Yeah, it's
You know, I'm not going to. My mental health is very important to me in these trying times. So whenever I play Smash, you know, I'm trying to, you know, learn some new characters, maybe come back as a better player when offline tournaments come back, and I'm gonna use this to transition to that. Just really quickly, because I know it's a hot topic of conversation. States all over the country are starting to reopen in some way, shape, or form, which it's a whole different can of worms, different podcast for that. But you know, because like we mentioned this earlier at the top of the stream, that there are places that are starting to have offline tournaments, and you know what? If you want to, like, if you're taking those social precautions, you do you. I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do. But you know, number one, I'm not going to anything until like I can walk into a CVS and get a shot for something. So, number two, you know, if you're a tournament organizer and you're deciding to hold offline tournaments in these circumstances, you know, just understand that the millisecond that something goes wrong, your reputation's in the shitter, and you will get shut down swiftly.
Yep.
You know, you will be. It's gonna be hard. So,
Yeah.
you know, to those of you who are going out and you know choosing to go to tournaments, you know, power to you. You know, I hope you're staying safe and keeping, you know, at least taking the precautions to make sure that you're safe.
Yep.
And you know the people around you safe. So
Me and Chris have actually talked about this extensively post podcast before too. The security and safety of the people should be at the forefront no matter what. Doesn't matter what people want to do this bad. Like I get that people are very tired of like quarantine and such, but there's 100,000 plus people who are dead. We can't change that number. We can't remove that number. So there is no safe way for somebody to walk away, like you just said, unscathed by hosting a tournament early before CDC regulations are lifted and having multiple cases come out of it. The local community will be destroyed. There will be no way, for one, that the biggest one that people seem to forget about. We have a very young community. Parents, if they find out that somebody got COVID at one of these locals, will never let those kids go there again. And you know who like to talk a lot? Moms love to talk amongst each other. So the moment you get that word of mouth going, you're not going to recover. So it's all about, for one, the safety of the people around you, but two, just don't be stupid. Like, it's just, it's not worth it. Again, like a big reason why I get so emotional about the topic we talked about before is because you're sitting, like, I still remember arguing with people about the fact that I was looking at a picture of somebody standing in front of a Ben and Jerry's saying that they deserve to be out, and yet we're looking at people getting gassed up while they're doing peaceful protests. It's like that's the type of stupid shit that you just don't want to see. So when it comes to the locals in the tournaments, wait until things are removed, wait until things are safe.
Give it
Because
time.
like in a way, for me, I know it's been weird because I haven't been out of work this whole time, but like I've also been right in the front of being next to people this whole time who are very arrogant about this entire thing. And that's why I'm happy that once this is all over, I'm most like 95% sure that I'm gonna be working a job that I've been searching for 3 years. So hopefully that happens once this is all over.
Clap in the Zoom chat.
Yeah, I'm hoping and I can't wait. But for now, it's like you got to look at people and understand that a lot of people that just don't understand it, they just want to blissfully ignore it, especially with everything going on. The news media cycle is talking about one thing right now because this is more important. Doesn't mean COVID went anywhere. It's still there. And there's still people who are flooding hospitals, and unfortunately, in 2 weeks from now, we might see a lot more. Because of like the fact that I won't jump back to that topic because we already went into that pretty deep. But it's just this is what will happen if locals start too early. So for a lot of people who want to just get back into it, just want to go. I want to play locals because I don't want to be on Wi-Fi. Just focus on having some fun. Play some new games. Reach out to people you haven't talked to in a while.
Find ways, get good habits, take care of yourself. This is kind of the last topic that I sort of put there, and it's mostly because a little bit of a personal agenda because it's how I'm trying to position things on this channel moving forward. But like, there's a good opportunity when you're stuck at home to just get new habits, and I know it's really difficult to do that, especially on your own, and especially, we talked about accountability a little earlier, but like holding yourself accountable to stick to things. So it says coaching there, but even just like mentoring, but find good ways to basically live and feel healthy, like whether it be just eating more than once a day or whether it be sleeping at a time that isn't like 4 or 5 a.m.
I'm already over 2, so.
Yeah, these things are so hard to do, and they were hard to do before all of the mess happened. So take advantage because these things translate to when you play as well. Like if you're overall in like a good like circadian rhythm or just biological clock, like you will play better when offline stuff does happen. So take it as like a training arc, man. I know it's not as exciting as being able to just be on the sticks and play against someone and just outplay or be outplayed or whatever, but like there's ways you could kind of do that like IRL, and finding good sources for that is such a good critical component. I've actually been sharing them for the subscribers to this channel, where I'm just trying to essentially spread good ideas. You could do that with your friends though. Like that's something you could very much do with your friends if you got the friends looking to make the improvements. But that's really the only note I wanted to make on that, really.
Yeah, it's a very valid viewpoint.
Yeah, and also like in a pandemic, sometimes like it's okay just to survive.
Oh, yeah.
Like I know like there's a lot of people who've been putting a lot of pressure on themselves to, improve something or learn something. Like if you have the headspace and energy to do that, great, go off, do it. But there's a lot of shit happening right now, and if you just make it through, that's a W too.
Yeah, and I don't mean to downplay that because that's a really good point. Like you don't have to be doing something every day. I just but like when you get the little bits of energy, and this is something I catch myself on literally all the time. Like, and this is I made a tweet about this. Basically, like this country's whole like economy, media is such a massive part of it. It's really easy to sit there when you have a shred of energy to just continue flicking and then get mad about something. But imagine if you took that shred of energy and just did anything else. So that you clear out like a drawer in your room, maybe vacuum.
I did that yesterday.
Maybe get a little stretch in. Yeah, like it makes a big difference.
You get that done. It feels really good when you get it done.
Little things, man. And you're right. Making it through the day, especially now, there's a lot to be said through it because just the strain on everybody, it's different and for different reasons. Like whether you're just trying to survive in a recession, whether you be black and you're being discriminated against, whether you're actually physically going to protests, whether you're just trying to share the information for people to see, it's exhausting. Most everyone is kind of hitting that point. Some people, there is a little bit of a luxury. You might be able to hide behind it, but we all can't. Like it's very out in the open. So it's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, like just being like from the extreme side of it, where I took the route of I gotta get everything done. And like I mean, don't get me wrong, some things were like I got some things done, like I was able to work on things like credit score and shit like that. Those are primary focuses. By the way, that should be a high school course.
Yeah,
But
right.
that amongst many other things, but like just stuff like that, I was putting so much effort that I got sick from not sleeping. And that is not healthy. Make sure you're doing exactly like J Dog said. Sometimes you just need to survive. You just need to get
Yeah.
through it. And then that's all that
Tomorrow's
matters.
another day. You know.
Yeah, there's another day at the end of the, when you're gonna wake up. We want to make sure that day's gonna be bright and healthy for you. And don't
Except now it's
sleep
raining.
like 2 hours a day. They
Yeah.
play it.
The sleep's a tricky one. I mean, I
Yeah.
could only speak to that personally, but it is, sleep patterns are different. And all I'm saying is like, yeah, you got an opportunity to, you feel a little shred of emotion, put it into yourself. There's so many external things like you might be tempted like, oh man, if I could get out of the house and play Smash, I'd feel so much better. Maybe not. It's another distraction, man. Like things build up. We're all at the same currencies. We got cash, we got time. So like however you're able to spend your time, just invest in yourself, basically.
Yeah.
I
I
can't
think
believe I bought a skateboard.
that is great to be
That's
honest.
a dope skateboard. Yeah, I
That's
love it.
great. I think
$35.
it's only $35.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Steal.
I think my biggest takeaway from all this here, and I hope everybody's biggest takeaway is the age old saying is that everybody fears change. It's the people fear what they don't understand, and change is one of them. And when it comes to the pandemic, when it comes to just racial discrimination, police brutality, playing Wi-Fi at home, anything, just having different things completely just kind of dismantle your life a little bit there. It's gonna be uncomfortable, but it's about how you walk away from it. At the end of the day, that's what's gonna matter. And you should always reach out to people for support systems because you're not alone. There's always somebody who's willing to listen. And if you don't think that they're gonna listen, we'll listen. Yeah,
Yep.
my DMs are always open. You guys reach out.
Check
Yeah,
in on your
anybody
friend.
here will listen.
It's
Oh,
true.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about not taxing yourself so hard that you lose track of who you are. And once you lose track of who you are, you end up taking too long to try and find yourself again. And next thing you know, you lost 2 years of your life. Make sure you're sitting there focusing hard on what you want to do, and don't let all this stress around you, like with the pandemic, trying to do all things at one day, tear you apart, because doing too much at one time is going to make it worse for you when you should just maybe focus on that one goal that you've been wanting to work on for a while. Who knows?
Yeah.
Everybody handles it differently, but that's just my thing on it. Just I hope that people understand that change may be uncomfortable, but change can be good. And it's needed.
It should be good. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
We're about at the end of our program today. I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm pretty much ready to wrap when you guys are. This has been a good
Yeah,
one.
I am
We're gonna
very
do-
much going
we're
to
gonna
pass
do-
out the moment that this is over. I'm not going to lie.
we're gonna do the quick thing that we do at the end of every podcast. And again, I just want to reiterate, thank you guys again for sharing your experience and joining us today. I know you guys are obviously busy with you guys still have work and stuff like that, but we appreciate you. I appreciate you, as a colleague and friends.
Yeah.
You guys are great dudes, and I couldn't have asked for 2 better people. 3 better people when Haas was here, obviously. 5 better people when Chris was here. Math is hard. I love all you guys. You
More than
guys are
happy to
great.
be here.
I'm okay with 2
Yeah,
+ 2 = 5 here. It's okay.
It's May. At time and math in Enigma. But so we do this fun thing at the end of every podcast. We're gonna keep it short and concise this time around. So you can follow me on social media at Koopa NJ. I'm basically just signal boosting, for Black Lives Matters and all the fun stuff. But something that we've been doing, J Dog, is that we're talking about a show that we're watching and a game that we're playing. So just on my end, I'm going to be spending my weekend watching The Legend of Korra because I've never watched it before.
Yes.
So
Same. I
Yes.
actually have not.
Yes. Season 1 and 2 are but season 3 and 4 are so good. Stick with
everybody.
it.
Yeah, that's what everybody tells me. The Avatar craze is back, and
Mhm.
man, that show is still really fucking good. All these years
So
later.
good.
So I'm watching that. Playing through A Link's Awakening. I'm probably gonna be playing through Bug Fables this weekend too. That is the the indie game that is basically Paper Mario with insects. So you can look forward to my in-depth review of that, along with the other games that I've been collecting over the weekend. So J Dog, you're the guest. How about you go next?
So recently I've been on a bit of an animation kick. So like last week I watched, people can cook me, I don't care. I watched She-Ra. It was actually really good. I would recommend it was a cute show. It was really good.
Mhm.
I just needed something to escape from the world a little bit, and that it hit all those notes.
I haven't
and then-
seen or know what you're talking about. So like
On
that's it.
It's
It's on
pretty
Netflix?
good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. And also on Netflix, I was watching Dorohedoro. It's an anime. It's actually, I won't recommend that one. It's kind of fucked up. But like if you like watching if you like watching weird shit,
Okay,
you
so
might like it.
what's the basis of it? Just quickly, quick synopsis.
I don't even know what to imagine. Basically, this guy has a lizard head on his body. He doesn't know why. He's trying to figure out how. And there's magic. He's immune to magic. But then also, like, there's a person living inside of his mouth. So he eats sorcerers to figure out what the guy inside his mouth says to him. It's a weird show. Okay. I'm not recommending it. I will not recommend it.
see, curiosity's almost killing me here to see what the hell is going on. But
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna probably dodge that one
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Wouldn't recommend
as
watching
I'm
it.
loading it up right now on my other screen now.
And as for games, playing Dragon Quest 11
Okay.
and Skullgirls.
That's a good one. I
Ooh.
want to get to.
Well played. Play Skullgirls. You got enter Evo?
I might. My big band's still a little whack, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I love watching that character.
Character's so fun.
It looks so cool.
I just downloaded Rivals of Aether on my computer. I'm looking forward to learning how to actually play that. So, what about you, big man Ajax? What's going on?
In the time that I have been able to actually watch stuff lately, the Legend of Korra is definitely on my list. For one, like Chavo had just finished watching Avatar for the first time. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm lucky enough, by the way, with this whole Wi-Fi thing, that I have a house full of gamers still, so I can actually play like local occasionally when I want to. But I had just learned that they hadn't seen Avatar, so I finally watched it on this new kick. The reason why I didn't watch The Legend of Korra is not that I thought it was gonna suck. It's just I had such good closure from Avatar that I didn't want to ruin that. Like I didn't want to be that to be tainted for me because it's so great. Uncle Iroh is one of the best characters ever written into just animation. I love it. But because of the high praise I keep hearing from Legend of Korra, especially just your reaction a second ago, J-Dog, like I'm gonna finally give it a shot. Games wise, I have for one, Pokemon DLC is finally coming around the corner, June 17th.
Yeah.
So that is that one I'm gonna be playing for sure. I got a lot of teams I gotta build for that nonsense. But also, I never played the original Xeno. So I'm downloading the definitive edition tonight actually. And once this weekend's over, I'm gonna be spending a couple days in a row trying to play through that and beat that because I've been told by many people it's their favorite game. And when I hear multiple people say that, I have to play it. Which is why I constantly recommend people to play Legend of Dragoon because it's so good, but not many people know about it, and they should definitely give it a shot. But those are my current plans: Legend of Korra, Xeno, and deep dive into Pokemon DLC when that comes out.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crystalodian, what's going on with you, man?
Dude, I'm still on that Fire Emblem like wagon. I've been on it for weeks. I want to stay on it. That game has like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours worth to like crack into. Like I
definitely lied 3 weeks ago when I said I was going to download it. I haven't downloaded it yet. I still need to play that. But
you got to be ready because it's gonna take up your time, and I really just enjoy a lot of there's like a lot of additional story in it in the way of supports, so you could get basically more story out of it if you want. So I like it for like a late night thing where I'll play a mission and I have supports built up and I can just like watch them.
That might be my best time to play that, actually,
nice.
like late night for like maybe a few missions or so. But I get so hooked on them so quick, and I refuse to let any units die on my first playthrough.
Yeah, you
so
can't-
like
you
it
can't
takes
let anyone
so
die.
long to beat
You
it.
could play
so much.
baby mode where the deaths don't count.
No,
but the
I won't
game-
play baby mode though. That's the
the-
problem. I have to play hard
so-
mode, but I won't let them die. So I constantly have to
mode
reset the maps.
Hard mode isn't that bad. And the thing that's good about this game is you don't have to always reset if you die. There's literally a mechanic where you could go back a few turns to basically like try and do something different, which is a big deal. Because in the old days, you could get like, through a 2-hour mission and someone die at the end and literally have to hard reset. But in this, you could just go back a few turns, which it's a limited thing you can do.
Oh, I know what you're talking
But,
about. I've
like,
actually seen that.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I haven't really been watching that much, to be entirely honest with you. I'm trying out the new Justin Roiland show, the guy who wrote Rick and Morty, Solar Opposites. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's cool.
Oh, I've been told that's hilarious. I need to watch
it's
that.
good. It's not Rick and Morty, but it's like the same sense of humor is there, obviously.
Okay.
It's almost like a little bit. I don't really have the complaint of things being too much for me. Like, I'm a big South Park fan, but it almost feels like too much for me at times. Where I'm just like, it's like gratuitous in some ways that I'm like, all right, like it's funny, but like.
If you're saying as a South Park fan that it's too much for you, then that's
Well, that's what I mean.
That's
like
something.
I'm pretty open to extreme animation, like points getting across. In fact, I like it.
Chris, have you seen Tuca and Birdie?
I haven't.
I think
I've
you'd
heard
really
great
like.
things.
I'll have to
That's
check that out.
Yeah.
so it was aired on Netflix for one season. I think it's by the same art people that did BoJack
BoJack.
Horseman.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did BoJack. It's Tiffany Haddish and Ali Wong, who are both hilarious on their own right. But I watched. It's only 10 episodes. They had one season on Netflix, and then they canned it, and then Adult Swim picked it up, and I love that. So if you're looking for if you're into the adult animation sphere, I think you'd really like that, because that's it's jarring, but it's stupid. It's stupid funny.
I love stupid funny. That's 95% of my favorite comedies. So I'll have to give it a shot.
And if you're looking for adult animation, if you ever feel like an existential crisis, Midnight Gospel will go there and well beyond there.
I unfortunately
I'm not saying this lightly, existential crisis, but you will learn a lot there.
You know what? I'm there regularly, so why not? Let me give it a shot. I'm willing to take pretty much any recommendations, at least for the first 3 episodes, and then drop it off if I don't like it from there.
It's
but
a unique experience.
Cool. Well, hey, listen, we're here for your weekly entertainment and TV recommended things, and our Twitters are scrolling across the bottom. So, again, we're gonna be back probably again. I'd say next Friday. And J-Dog, again, thank you again for joining us today. We are.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So if you're ever bored,
absolute pleasure.
If you're ever bored and looking to talk more truth about the world, you're always welcome to join us.
We're always here, man.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll definitely stop by some other time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm really glad I got to be a part of the conversation and, just get the message out there a little.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea. Heck yeah.
From all your friends here at Master Hand Games, stay safe, have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
This concludes Black Mirror episode 36.